Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream, this time out of Game Week 20. This is the first live stream of 2026. It's a pleasure to have you on board, and there's a lot more content headed your way for both FPL and UCL Fantasy. So I'll get straight into your questions as always, and later on I'll delve into predicted lineups, top 10 captains, team news, injury updates, and also talking about the clean sheet odds as well, building upon what I discussed in the best wildcard squad video amongst the transfer tips and the team selection too. So I've got Dubravka in goal at the moment over Robert Sanchez, and this is essentially the starting 11 I talked about in the team selection yesterday in the first double upload of the calendar year. And yeah, there's a lot more to talk about, and that's where these questions will come in handy. So be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and all that good stuff. It is massively appreciated. And if we hit a super chat goal, then I'll be going live for even longer, and that's something I've done in the past as well. I'm also looking to gift memberships in this stream, and I'll be doing the same once a month, and it will be 10 memberships gifted for an entire month as well. You get early access to my videos, proud to comments, and many other perks. So let's go straight from the beginning and see who is first, and that's Sam. He says Dubravka, Sanchez, Gabriel, Hincapié, O'Reilly, Klein, Lacroix, Wilson, Rogers, Saka, Wirtz, Foden, Thiago, Haaland, Kripke Jr., 1 free transfer, 0.6 million in the bank. Where do I need to improve? Concern about Wirtz hamstring comments. Wirtz to Bruno Guimaraes, Wilson to Ghana for a -4. Is it worth it? Or O'Reilly to Frimpong, Hincapié, Lacroix to Gavardio, Tarkovsky for a -4. Was annoyed when O'Reilly was subbed off at 57 minutes and Gavardio is really a goal threat. Yeah, that is a good point, and there are a few FPL managers who are concerned about Florian Wirtz and whether he'll start. I still think that will be the case, but it's not exactly what you want to hear, and he was quite disappointing in the last game. I still think he's a decent FPL asset, but we just need to see more consistency from him. But I believe Wirtz will start the game, to be fair, and I think it's just more of a general comment. It doesn't necessarily mean he's injured or anything like that, but in regards to your transfer plans, that's where things get a bit interesting. So comparing the -4 hits, and I'm seeing a lot of people considering taking a hit at this point. Wirtz to Bruno Guimaraes. I do like the Brazilian in FPL, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure about this one. If it was Wirtz to Rogers, I'd probably go for it for a -4 hit, but you've already got Rogers in your team anyway. So looking at your squad, I just don't think the -4 hit is actually worth it in either case. So the players you're looking to bring in, Bruno Guimaraes and Ghana, absolutely fine. I like both midfielder picks. They were talked about in my wildcard video yesterday, but I wouldn't do it for a hit this week, selling Wirtz and Wilson. As for the defenders as well, I'd spread those transfers around. You don't need to do O'Reilly to Frimpong necessarily, even though you might want to target the Fulham away fixture, but I think Liverpool will concede in that game. So if I had to pick between these options, I think long-term, Wirtz to Bruno G and Wilson to Ghana is probably best, actually, but I wouldn't do it for a -4 hit this week. Yeah, exactly that easy. Welcome to 2026. Hopefully you're doing well. Yeah, the day's going fine so far. It's only just begun for me anyway. How do you feel about the first round of FPL? What are your strengths and weaknesses of playing this game? Well, it's technically not the first round, but I know what you're saying. For 2026, it's a different story. I'd say strengths, adapting to an ever-changing environment. I think this season we're not getting too many standouts, so it's very important to get the timing right with certain players. I think I've become much more patient in Fantasy Premier League because before I just made a lot of transfers and took a lot of hits, and it's not always the best way to go about it. But yeah, I think overthinking might be the weakness, but that's something I'll work on. That's mainly with FPL, to be quite honest with you. Isaiah says, hey Dylan, is my team good? Raya, Gabriel, Chow, Gay, Foden, Harry Wilson, Rogers, Saka, Cunha, Haaland captain, Thiago, with Dubravka, Chalobah, Guiu, and Tuanzebe on the bench. Looks solid. I agree with your starting 11 and the bench itself. And I know you've got Chalobah in there, who beyond Game Week 20 will have, well, he'll be a starter for you in quite a lot of Game Weeks coming up, but Yeah, I think with Guiu and Tuanzebe, you might have a bit of a light bench, but I understand it. You don't necessarily need to have a stacked 15-man squad. But I think for now it's looking good. Over the coming weeks, I think Thiago to Bowen would be very promising, but it all depends on your budget and how many free transfers you have at your disposal. Looking at the rest of your team, I think Wilson is someone you could arguably sell, but I don't see him as a priority offload, to be fair. So, yeah, you're in a decent position. I think Cunha's another one who you could sell in a couple of weeks' time. I'd be quite keen on that. But for the next two game weeks, you arguably hold. Sidindra says, hey Dylan, I've made one free transfer to sell Van Dijk to Gabriel and now got double Arsenal defence with Timber. So now which two should I start between Semenyo, Thiago, Minter, Keane, Anderson, and who to put as first, second sub? Yeah, good transfer overall. That's absolutely fine. Out of those players, I would still go for Thiago. And I'd go for Semenyo still, but he's up against your double Arsenal defence, so I can understand if you feel a bit differently. I'd have Minter first on the bench and probably Keane second. I'd have Anderson last. Is it worth taking a -4 to sell Semenyo to Gordon, Rodgers and bench Minter, who is a doubt? Well, Hurstler was quite positive about Minter, and there is a chance he features and even starts the game, but I would probably go for it. I think long-term buying Rodgers will pay off, but the only downside is you're selling the high-scoring midfielder in the game for a -4 hit, but when you also factor in the fact he's playing against Arsenal, and then he's on the cusp of joining City, where there are a lot of question marks about how long it will take him to integrate into the starting 11 and also adapt to his new team, I think it's probably worth the -4 hit in this case. Semenyo to Rodgers for a hit. Already sold Jimenez for Bowen. Think I should have waited on Bowen. I think Bowen is a decent transfer, to be fair, and that's an upgrade on Jimenez. Semenyo to Rodgers for a hit, I'd probably lean towards yes, and that's mainly because of the reasons I just described. Haaland captain and Cunha captain Game Week 19 equals nightmare. Yeah, it was a nightmare game week for a lot of people, but not everyone. Even if you got, let's say, 50 plus points, I think that's a fairly decent score, all things considered. Good to see Baraf. There's a chance that Rice will play. I'm going to cover the latest update that we got yesterday from a reliable Arsenal insider, but he has been included, or at least he's travelled with the squad, and a late decision will be made on his fitness and whether he can start the game or not. But I would back him to be in and amongst the sort of bench. I'm not sure if he'll start, though. That's my personal opinion. You'll also see my predicted lineups fairly soon. I already said in the Game Week 19 deadline that Sunderland at their home will make Haaland captain have a hard time during the match. Yeah, I get that. But City had a lot of big chances, and Haaland had one himself, but their finishing wasn't good on the day. Would he do Saliba to Gabriel? Already have Timber, but for a -4. Just do it after the Liverpool game. As good as Gabriel is, I don't think it's worth the hit right now. Best Verts replacement next game week. Depends who you have already, Baraf, but I'd say Rodgers is up there. Lacroix to Tarkovsky plus Verts to Bruno G for a -4, worth it. Yeah, they're decent transfers as discussed earlier, but yeah, Lacroix has been struggling recently, so I do get this. I do like the -4 hit, to be fair. I do like it, and Liverpool have some tough fixtures coming up. Alderete is tempting, but I wouldn't take a hit for him necessarily. Hincapié playing? Yeah, I think so. Calafiori is out. The same goes for Mosquera. So Hincapié should be on the left. It will probably be Gabriel, Saliba and Timber with Raya in goal. That should be Arsenal's defensive line. Yeah, that's a lot of transfer questions. Hincapié to Frimpong for his attacking threat recently, and Verts to Bruno G. Yeah, so you asked this question earlier, basically. I like all of those -4 hits, to be fair, even though I think Frimpong is very short-term. That's something I've been talking with all my viewers in the comment section recently. But yeah, I think I'd rather go for the midfielder moves that you talked about earlier. And if not, going for Tarkovsky to replace Lacroix. And you can keep Hincapié for now. And if you have enough money, sell him to Gabriel, depending on who you have already. Yo, Dylan, I did Dewsbury Hall to Paqueta this week. Am I an idiot? No, you're not an idiot, but I do prefer Ghana. I think he's a bit more consistent. Paqueta's ceiling is arguably higher, but Ghana was terrific against his former club, Nottingham Forest. And the goal, the assist, DEFCON, maximum bonus points was really impressive. Thank you, Robin. Thanks for the hard work and Happy New Year. I appreciate it. Hopefully you have a great 2026 and all the best for Game Week 20 and beyond. So much appreciated. Alderete or Anderson? I think this week I'd go for Alderete. Yeah, I would. I'd go for Alderete. So just give me a second, by the way, whilst I get the messages on screen. They were working, but yeah, as you can well, as you probably know by now, sometimes technical difficulties happen. Petrovic to Verbruggen, O'Reilly, Saliba to Gabriel this week. I'd rather do Petrovic to Verbruggen, and I'm not really the type to endorse goalkeeper transfers, but I think in this case it's worth it. Defensive O'Reilly, Van Dijk, Chow, 0.3 in the bank, 1 free transfer. Any suggestions? I think Van Dijk to, well, Gabriel and Timber would be ideal, but you need more money for that. So I'd roll for the time being, but in the future, that is what I'd recommend. Buy Gabriel for Van Dijk, but that would require a downgrade elsewhere. Best overall player to own? Well, apart from Haaland, I'd say Gabriel is up there. Hi, Dylan. When is the best game week to use the wildcard? Very team-dependent question. So I would ideally use this after game week 30 or around that stage because we're going to get doubles and blanks around that period. So it's all covered in my chip strategy guide from a few months ago, but essentially I would probably wildcard around the game week 30 window. Keep or sell Minter? More of a sell in my opinion, but I do back him to potentially start actually in game week 20. Why does Arteta prefer Hincapié over Lewis Skelly? What happened with the latter? Also, Hincapié didn't look great going forward. I think Hincapié is more solid defensively, and this season we have seen Lewis Skelly really struggle, and that is also in part due to a lack of game time, but I just think Lewis Skelly is still a bit raw. He played really well last season. When he burst onto the season, his trajectory was only going upwards, but there are going to be some bumps along the road. He's experiencing some right now, but Hincapié is more solid. I think going forwards, yeah, he does lack quite a bit, and even on the ball, I think Hincapié has shown better during his time at Bayer Leverkusen and, of course, with the Ecuadorian national team, but I think I understand why Arteta is preferring Hincapié at this moment in time. Rate my lineup out of 10, says 0-0. Raya, Dorgu, Gabriel, Keane, Paqueta, Foden, Saka, Cunha, Ekitike, Haaland. Yeah, probably an 8 out of 10. Something like that. I'm not a massive fan of United defenders against Leeds. The main appeal was Wolves at home last week and maybe Burnley away coming up. But yeah, I'd say 8 out of 10 for this week. Sells to Pickford, good? Yeah, I think so. It's between Pickford and Roofs as the best goalkeepers right now. I think Raya is in third. He doesn't offer as good value as the other two, though. Baraf says Dubravka, Sanchez, Virgil, Tarkovsky, Timber, Savona, Rodon, Anderson, Bruno G, Foden, Cunha. Who to downgrade to get Gabriel? 0 in the bank and 1 free transfer right now, or roll? I just roll right now and focus on getting Gabriel next week. But from a structural perspective, I think it's worth selling Van Dijk to Gabriel. And in order to fund that move, maybe Cunha to Rodgers. So that's something you could do this week. Buy Rodgers now, and then next week get Gabriel for Van Dijk. Did Gabriel and Gordon in for Virgil and Foden good transfers? Yes. I prefer Bruno Guimaraes over Gordon long term, but I think that's a decent transfer, and Gabriel's the best defender in the game, so you know my thoughts on that. Calafiori, Senesi to Gabriel, Alderete back free with Anderson on the bench. Yeah, makes sense. I'd go for the same thing. With Maresca quitting the job, how is the new manager tactics changing with Chelsea players in FPL? Difficult to say, right? Because we don't know which manager's coming in. With this weekend, of course, it's the caretaker. So that's going to be a bit of a crazy one against Man City. But yeah, there are reports coming out of Chelsea players being very dissatisfied and also worried about the departure of Maresca, who was kind of seen as one of the main reasons why they competed so well in many big games and had decent results over the last couple of seasons. But yeah, I think I just don't really expect the replacement to be better than Maresca, at least this season in the short term. So we could see a regression in certain aspects, but difficult to say, right? Because the manager who comes in might solidify them defensively. They keep more clean sheets, but they struggle to score goals. So there's a lot of unknowns right now with Chelsea. I think that's probably the key factor. Good to see you, Paredes, as always. O'Reilly minutes going down. Fixtures looking meh. Would you suggest doubling up on Arsenal defence early I can do O'Reilly to Gabriel and clear all my funds to 0.0. Van Dijk, Timber, Gabriel, Michele, Alderete. So with O'Reilly, of course, he was subbed off before 60 minutes against Sunderland, but that doesn't mean he's going to do that all the time. And Guardiola made a few changes with this hectic schedule over Christmas and now going into January. Yeah, it's not a complete surprise he made a few modifications, but I think there's a debate to sell Van Dijk instead of Alderete, to be fair. But with Van Dijk, there are no problems or concerns about him starting or being subbed off. So I get that. I think O'Reilly to Gabriel and doubling up on Arsenal defensively is probably worth it and going a bit early on that structure. So, yeah, I think with O'Reilly's minutes going down, he'll still be the main starter at left back. There might be concerns in the future when when Ait Nuri is back from the African Cup of Nations. But, yeah, the fixtures are looking quite meh. But also for Arsenal, I just think that the Gunners can step up against the so-called tougher teams. And sometimes they'll concede against opponents where you expect them to keep an easy clean sheet against. So, yeah, good questions there. But I think with O'Reilly, he'll still play and get 60-plus minutes fairly regularly. And O'Reilly to Gabriel looks very solid. I'd do it even now. So O'Reilly or Van den Berg to Gabriel. I'd rather sell Van den Berg. Good to see you, AK94. Hey Dylan, 0 free transfers, unsure what to do. Raya, Alderete, Gvardiol, Keane, Cunha, Foden, Saka, Minter, Haaland, Ekitike, DCL, with Dubravka, Dewsbury Hall, Anderson, Senesi on the bench. Looks decent. To kind of nitpick or find improvements, I think Dewsbury Hall to Ghana looks quite solid. Even selling Senesi to a different defender would also work fairly well, but the main concern there is Keane because he's still yellow flagged. He's in my predicted lineup, but it is a difficult one to say, and David Moyes gave nothing away in his press conference about him or Alcaraz, so yeah, I think those are the players to highlight. Maybe Minter as well as sells, and in a couple of weeks' time, probably Cunha, but you don't need to do it just yet. But I think the best midfielder that you don't have for this week is Rodgers, and that could also help you in terms of getting funds to make other upgrades. So Cunha to Rodgers, whilst they might not look great for the next two, I think it is a good long-term move in the grand scheme of things. Hey Dylan, what to do with Van den Berg? Has he lost his place? Well, he had illness recently, and that's why we've seen Ajer alongside Collins. So, look, Van den Berg is someone I've never really liked too much as an FPL asset, and the same goes for any Brentford defender, but I think Lewis Potter with the advanced positioning will be quite intriguing as a 4th or 5th option. So I think Van den Berg is more of a sell, to be fair, and Ajer's been playing so well, and they've also got the likes of Hickey and Henry at left back, so I think it makes sense to offload Van den Berg, and there are a few options to choose from. Not many. Matty Cash for some people. Tarkovsky would be ideal. And of course, if you can get to Gabriel, even better. But at a similar price tag, there are options, but maybe not too many amazing choices. Do you recommend holding Van Dijk until Sunderland at home and then offload him for Gabriel? If you can sell Van Dijk to Gabriel now, I'd do it. But not for a -4 hit. So the sooner you can get that move done, the better. They do face each other in Gameweek 21 as well. Did Rice to Rodgers. Should I do Frimpong / O'Reilly to Gabriel for a -4? Yeah, Declan Rice could feature today, and I'm going to cover that very soon, but Rodgers is a very decent choice there. Should I do Frimpong O'Reilly? Yes, I would. I mean, for a -4 hit, there's a debate there. So what I probably end up doing is buy Gabriel next week against Liverpool. You might miss out on a good return against Bournemouth, to be fair, but is it worth a -4 hit compared to O'Reilly or Frimpong? Difficult to say. Timing is so important, and I'm not going to deny that Gabriel can pull against the Cherries and against any opponent, but I'd probably wait until Gameweek 21 here and do it for free. With Gakpo back, is he ahead of Ekitike regarding penalties? Well, Szoboszlai's on penalties while Salah is out. We saw that against Inter Milan a couple of weeks ago. So Ekitike would be second in command for penalties, I believe. With Gakpo in the equation, I think it's still the same. But Gakpo would be another shout. That is true. But not ahead of Ekitike, in my opinion. Maybe a Liverpool fan will correct me there. Start 1, Rice, Potts, or Chow? I'd start Chow, but Rice would be ranked ahead of Potts there. Morning, Dylan. Hope you're well, says Briston. Likewise. Would you do Gay for Gabriel free and Rice to Cherky for a -4? If not Cherky, what or who for a hit? And who to start if not taking the -4? Wilson, Raul Jimenez, Marino, Grealish. Probably Wilson from those four, but in terms of a -4 that I think would be worthwhile is probably Rodgers. But Rice should be back very soon. If not against Bournemouth, I think he'll return against Liverpool next week. Thank you, Wally, for moderating the chat. Massively appreciated. What will be his formation for Chelsea? Well, it just depends who they appoint, right? I know Liam Rosenau is the favourite right now, but there's still Fabregas, Iriola, and different managers who are being linked, so it ultimately depends on who they hire. Yeah, look, Maresca done a decent job, but yeah, there is a bit of inconsistency there. One win out of the last 7 in the Premier League, and they typically start seasons well, and then from December onwards, they kind of tail off a little bit. But of course, over the last year, they've won 2 trophies, and I think Chelsea fans would have been happy with that. But yeah, now it's a different story. Liam Rosenau has a same approach or similar approach to Maresca. I'm not so sure about that, but yeah, either way, it is a downgrade. It looks like anyway. We'll see how it goes if he's appointed. Gittins and Garnacho is not the player that Maresca wanted. I wouldn't be surprised about that. And yeah, I don't think they're great signings either. The ownership don't care about winning easy. It's just a player stock market. Sad state. I've been a fan since I was born. Had no choice in this matter, says Harrison James. Start Stack or Voltemada? I'd go for Voltemada. But the Vissa problem is now becoming a real thing. Best Minter replacement at 6.5 or less. I'd consider Garner. He's still right up there for me. Elliot Anderson is decent. Some people mention Hutchinson, which is a decent shout as well. But I think at this price tag or below, I'm probably going to say Garner at this point. Enzo Fernandez too. Yeah, I think it's going to be between those 2 assets. Good to see you, Outcast D12. Hey mate, should I play Minter and hope for the best? Have Anderson as my first sub. Depends on the context, right? If you have enough money to stretch to Rodgers, then I'd make the move. But if you are quite limited, then I'd probably just hold on to Minter in that case. And also rolling can be, yeah, very important sometimes. I haven't done it enough over the last couple of weeks. O'Reilly and Thiago out for Tarkovsky and DCL. O'Reilly is starting for me and have Alderete on the bench. I still think O'Reilly's decent, but I get it after that early substitution. It's very worrying. I'd probably hold off for now and keep what you have, but good transfer plans. I do like the players you're bringing in. And Tarkovsky is an upgrade on O'Reilly. That is true. I did a -8 to sell off Lacroix, Neto, Semenyo, and Boyne, Bruno G, Paqueta, Gabriel. Looks good. Paqueta will also be very popular for people looking for a budget midfielder, so that makes sense. And Wolves away coming up looks very promising, and West Ham have some of the best fixtures over the next 6 game weeks. And speaking of which, let's go to the FDR and have a look here. So Brighton, Newcastle, Spurs, Everton, and West Ham are in the top 5 until game week 25. And if we look at the bottom set of teams here, Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Liverpool, and Man City. With predicted points over the same time frame, Haaland is top. Saka, Semenyo, Cunha, Foden, Gabriel, Odegaard, Ekitike, Bruno Guimaraes, and Trossard are in the top 10. Rice was ranked very highly, but that injury from the last week has definitely held them back when it comes to predicted points. But speaking of Declan Rice, this was the update we got yesterday from a reliable Arsenal source called Hand of Arsenal. So Declan Rice has travelled with the Arsenal squad for the game tomorrow. The England international pushed all day to play against Villa earlier this week, but fell just short. Decision to be made tomorrow. So we'll see what happens with that one. And with predicted price changes, Bruno Guimaraes, Paqueta, Roofs, Pickford, Gordon, and Matheus Nunes could rise tonight. 2 goalkeepers is quite telling. As for price fallers, we could see Chalobah, Marino, Lacroix, Richards, Grealish, Voltemada, Adams, and also Gibbs-White. Let's compare the stats of 2 players here, and this is where things will get very interesting. So I'm going to compare Morgan Rogers to Cunha because this could be my transfer this week, even though my defensive line is an absolute shambles. So Cunha has far better shot volume. That's the kind of standout number for him with 50 for the season. 19 shots on target, 27 shots inside the box. Rodgers has decent numbers, but they pale comparison to Cunha. But when it comes to actual goal contributions, 7 goals and 3 assists for Rodgers, 3 goals and 1 assist for Cunha. The XG, though, is in the Brazilian's favour, but he hasn't really made that count so far. The expected assist is quite similar as well, but Rodgers does take the lead there, and he has also started more games and played more minutes. In terms of big chances, Cunha does lead in this metric with 5, but Morgan Rodgers has 7 to Matheus Cunha's 1 big chance created. And with key passes, 20 for Rodgers and 18 for Cunha. But when it comes to FPL points, there's a massive gap of around 40 for the season so far. Next up will be the best wildcard squad, and this is what I talked about in yesterday's video. Michael Keane is still doubtful, so be a little bit wary about that. And there are certain things you can do to maybe get to Tarkowski, for example, which I also highlighted in yesterday's video. And doing something like this to add a bit more squad depth, so Tarkowski in for Keane, maybe Garner for Potts, that would require a downgrade elsewhere. And that's where Ekitike could be moved on to a Thiago or perhaps even a Calvert-Lewin. I know Ollie Watkins is being considered by some people as well. That could also work fairly well. I think in this case, what I'd probably do is downgrade Ekitike and then go to Igor Thiago, or Watkins would be a consideration, but still not fully sold on him yet. But something like that looks decent. 0.7 in the bank. Morgan Rodgers probably vice-captain. I think Saka's another shout. Jared Bowen has a differential. 0.7 in the bank. Dorgu's just there as a 5th defender. If you don't have Rifs in goal, though, I would go for one of Mukiele or Alderete instead of Dorgu, which is probably better long-term, to be quite honest with you. But that's just a sort of rough idea of the best wildcard squad. And if you want to see a best free hit team, then let me know in the live chat. Drop a like on the stream as well. Subscribe. We are closing in on 38k on YouTube. But next up is FPL Challenge, and I'm going for a back three this week because it is called Clean Start. So you get double points for a clean sheet. I've got Rifs in goal at the moment, which could be changed, facing Tottenham away. Gabriel is my captain with an away fixture against Bournemouth. Both Tarkowski and Chow are at home against Brentford and Crystal Palace respectively. I've got Morgan Rodgers as my only midfielder and Erling Haaland as the solitary forward in this team. So what you're going to see now are the team selection graphics from yesterday. You can see how I did as well in game week 19, and you're going to see as well a few other bits and bobs there like transfer plans. I've only got one available move this week, and I did go very early on Diogo Dalot. I just think in the end that was quite costly. I would have got more points from Anderson or Nathaniel Klein, who were on my bench, of course. Klein got the assist and 2 bonus points, producing 7 overall. Only 2 players returned last week, so it was a horrendous start and end to 2025 and 2026. But it is what it is, right? And there you go. In terms of transfer plans, Cunha to Rodgers is very tempting for me. But the same goes for Anderson to Chow or Michael Keane in the long term, but not necessarily for this week. And I don't have enough money. Well, actually, I do have enough money to get either one of them this week. The same goes for Klein to Mukiele as well, but I don't really see it as a massive upgrade for Gameweek 20. So this is my provisional team selection, and you're going to see my team later on as well. But this is essentially what I'm kind of planned at the moment. Dubravka over Sanchez, this back three, although O'Reilly will be a big question mark now. And you can see the bench as well with Sanchez, Potts, Anderson and Klein. But I might swap Anderson with Potts a little bit when it comes to the bench order. And with the captaincy and vice, that's something else I'm open to changing. So Saka could end up being my vice captain instead of Hugo Ekitike. But I don't see myself going against Erling Haaland with the armband this week, despite a poor performance against Sunderland last time out. There were some changes to the expected points, but nothing drastic. I think O'Reilly went down ever so slightly to 4.6. And the other key change was Igor Thiago, who is now at 4.5 expected points. The rest is pretty much the same, actually. There might have been a few modifications here and there, but nothing too drastic. So, scoreline predictions. Oh, maybe not. Maybe bloody not. Oh, okay. Well, these are the top 10 captains, so I'm going to let this play out then. I'll have these scoreline predictions coming up very soon, but I've got Haaland top, Ekitike second, Rodgers third, and Saka fourth in a bit of a different captaincy list because Watkins is up there. The same goes for Gabriel, Bowen, and a few other options who might surprise you. Phil Foden, Wirtz and Calvert-Lewin. There is definitely a case for a Brighton asset, but Welbeck, for example, has never scored against the Clarets in his career. But yeah, let me get that up for you. And yeah, I'll get the scoreline predictions up very shortly. And I'm also going to go through the predicted lineups, which I'm going to go through next before going back to the scoreline predictions. Okay, so let's go to the predicted lineups now. And yeah, feel free to offer your thoughts as well. For Arsenal, I've gone for Raya, Timber, Saliba, Gabriel and Hincapié, Zubimendi, Odegaard and Marino, Saka, Gyökeres and Trossard. There is a chance that Rice will start, but it isn't guaranteed, and Arsenal's upcoming fixtures aren't looking amazing. With Aston Villa, it's Nottingham Forest at home next. I think Emi Martinez will start in goal with Cash, Konsa, Lindelof and Maatsen. Kamara is back from suspension. The same goes for their right-back, of course, Matty Cash. Onana, McGinn, Tielemans, Rodgers and Ollie Watkins would complete the starting 11. And for Bournemouth, Petrovic, Jimenez, Hill, Senesi, Troffer, Tavernier, Scott, Brooks, Kluivert, Semenyo and Evanilson. But there's also the likes of Kripke Jr. could enter the equation, and also Diakite in central defence. Moving on to Brentford, Kelleher, Coyote, Ajer, Collins, Henry, Janelt, Henderson, Yarmoliuk, Lewis Potter, Sharda and Igor Thiago. We're now with Brighton, with one yellow flag player in the starting 11 in Minter. I think he could still start, with a Bruggen in goal, Veltman at right back as Vifa is still out injured, Van Heck, Dunk and Kadioglu, Ayari and Milner in the midfield, Gomez, Mitoma and Danny Welbeck. Another 4-2-3-1 formation. Well, actually, Burnley usually play that, but they are going to a back three recently. So Dubravka, Lauren, Ekdal, Humphreys, Walker and Perez, that'd be the sort of back five. Ogochukwu and Florentino Luis in central midfield. Edwards, Broja and Brun Larsen. Chelsea are the ones who could play a 4-2-3-1, but who knows, as Enzo Maresca is no longer at the club. I would back them to go for Sanchez, Gusto, Fofana, Chalobah and Cucurella, who is yellow flagged. James, Enzo. Crystal Palace have been very stable with their 11 all season. I think they'll go for Henderson, Lerma, Lacroix, Gay, Wharton, Hughes, Klein, Mitchell, Devaney, Yeremy Pino and Jean-Philippe Mateta. Everton have one yellow flag player as well in their starting 11. I think Michael Keane will get the nod, and Alcaraz is also in contention with Pickford, O'Brien, Tarkovsky, Mikalenko, Eric Bonham and Garner, who is offering great value right now at 5.1 million, McNeil, Roll, Grealish and Tierno Barry. Fulham are up next with Leno, Tete, Anderson, Cuenca, Robinson, who has been outstanding recently, Sandenberg and Lukic in the midfield, Wilson, Smith-Rowe, Kevin and Raul Jimenez. Leeds United have been in decent form recently with Perry in goal, Bogle. We could see Bornau in central defence. Ampadu is suspended and that's why he's not in this predicted lineup. Bjol, Strauch, Goodmanson, Aronson, Tanaka and Stack would complete the defence and midfield with Calvert-Lewin and Okafor up front. The Premier League champions are up next here with Alisson, Frimpong, Konate, Van Dijk and Robertson, Gravenberch and Jones. I put Szoboszlai on the right, McAllister in a more advanced position and Wirtz off the left-hand side, but Gakpo could get the nod here against Fulham away and Ekitike would be up front. Man City have also been a bit more stable with their predicted 11, and I think Nico Gonzalez, for example, he is a bit of a doubt. City got 2 injuries against Sunderland in Doku and Nico Gonzalez, so I've gone for Donnarumma, Nunez, Ruben Dias, Gavardio, O'Reilly, Rodri, Bernardo Silva, Cherky, Reinders, Foden, Haaland. To be fair, Doku could start, but yeah, Savio was the one who got injured in that game, and I think City's fixtures are a bit mixed bag over the next couple of weeks. The same goes for Man United, who have promising fixtures over the next 2, but then it becomes really difficult with Man City and Arsenal. Lamens, Dalot, Heaven, Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, Ugarte, Dorgu, Xerxes, Cunha, and Sesko is very likely. And for Newcastle United, Pope, Miley, Cher, Chow, and Lewis Hall, who should be fine, according to Eddie Howe. Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Joelinton. I've gone for Murphy, Gordon, and Voltemada, but there are a few other options that could start, like Visser being a prime example. Nottingham Forest will go for John, Williams, Milenkovic, Murillo, Zinchenko, Anderson and Dominguez in the midfield, Hutchinson and Hudson-Odoi on the wings, and Gibbs-White just behind Igor Jesus. We're now on to the last couple of teams, and Sunderland have been very solid this season. They're still unbeaten at the Stadium of Light, but the next two games are away from home against Tottenham and Brentford, with Rifs in goal, Hume, Mukiele, Gertruida, Alderete and Cherkin, Miyenda, Lefay, Xhaka, Adingra and Brobby. With Tottenham Hotspur, Vicario, Borro, Romero, Van de Ven, Spence, Bentancur, Gray, Kudus, Bergval, Colomwani and Richarlison. West Ham United have really changed formations quite drastically over the last couple of weeks. Sometimes a back three, then they go for a 4-3-3, maybe a 4-3-1-2 and a 4-2-3-1. But I'm going for Areola in goal here, Walker-Peters, and it's a very close call between Todibo, who is currently in injury doubt, and Mavropanos, Hillman, Scarles, Magassa, Potts, Fernandez, Paqueta, Calvert-Lewin, Callum Wilson and Jarrod Bowen. And with Wolves, Jose Sarr, Mosquera, Doherty and Krejci. Andre is now back from suspension. I think he'll partner Joao Gomez in the midfield, with Chichawa and Hugo Bueno as the wing-backs, Mane and Hwang Hee-chan on the wings, and Tolu up front. So that completes the predicted lineups, and let's now go to the scoreline predictions. So, Aston Villa 3, Nottingham Forest 1, Brighton 1, Burnley 1, Wolves 2, West Ham 1, Bournemouth 0, Arsenal 1, Leeds 0, Man United 0, Everton 1, Brentford 1, Fulham 2, Liverpool 2, Newcastle 2, Crystal Palace 0, Tottenham 1, Sunderland 1, and Man City 2, Chelsea 1. That would be quite a few draws, but not as many as last game week where we had so many. Only 2 victors out of the 20 Premier League clubs for Game Week 19. So next up will be the team weakness and the heat map, and I'm going for something a little bit different this time round, not just targeting Wolves, and I think Nottingham Forest could really struggle here against this specific player, Morgan Rogers, who I'd love to buy this week. He now costs 7.5 million in FPL, and his heat map looks very promising. So with the clean sheet odds, Chelsea are bottom with a 14% probability against City away, and this was before the Enzo Maresca bombshell. Everton are 6th, facing Brentford at home. Newcastle are technically joint 5th with them, facing Crystal Palace at home. Aston Villa and Tottenham are in the top 4, but Arsenal are 2nd, facing Bournemouth away, and Brighton don't have a great stat there for the leading clean sheet contender with 45%, but they are top of all teams, and maybe it could be worth having Ava Bruggen to cover that Brighton defence, and people might be interested in their attackers as well. And I'll go through the top 10 captains one last time, at least for now, because people will probably ask about it later, but I've got a few interesting names in here like Calvert-Lewin, Wirtz, Foden and Bowen, but I think the latter is very consistent. Gabriel is 6th, and it's quite rare for a defender to rank so highly, but he has done so in the last couple of months as well. Watkins is 5th. Saka, Rodgers, Ekitike and Haaland make up the rest of this top 10 list, and I think Haaland is still the man to beat when it comes to the captaincy as well. Let's now go back to my FPL squad, and I'll see if any late transfers are made here. Start stack or Voltemada, says Zubzi. Yeah, that was covered earlier. So yeah, Voltemada's the one. Paqueta's a doubt according to West Ham leaks. I appreciate that. There's always something that pops up which makes predicting lineups very difficult, but yeah, that could be something I amend very soon. I'll have a look as well on Twitter. Yeah, so it's something to keep an eye on. So thanks for that. Semenyo to Rice is a good choice. I'm guessing... Wait, you're selling Semenyo to Rice? I think buying either one right now is a little bit awkward. I'd rather just get Rodgers. I think O'Reilly is fit, yeah. Wirtz to Gordon, Rodgers or Trossard? Rodgers. Start who, Semenyo or O'Reilly? Semenyo. Sanchez against City or Dubravka against Brighton? I'm going for Dubravka. Start 2, Thiago, Pino and Elliot Anderson. Thiago and Elliot Anderson. Hi Dylan, who should I start between Rice, Anderson or Mane from Wolves? I'd still go for Rice here. I don't use FPL plan there, Jose Ferreira. What I use is FPL.team and also livefpl.net mainly for planning. I have 2 United players bought for Wolves but can't stand them. Should I wildcard? So bad about Bruno, Mbeumo, etc. I wouldn't wildcard just to get rid of 2 United players. I'm guessing there's more to it than that, but I'd still keep them for the next 2. But I understand your point. I mean, I'm open to selling Cunha to Rodgers now, which is quite telling. After Bruno is back, is having Palmer, Saka, Bruno, Haaland the template? Should we save transfers for that? I'm not sure if that will be the template. We also need to see Saka and Palmer justify their price tags because they both cost more than 10 million. That requires sacrifices and compromises elsewhere. But certainly having one of those two alongside Bruno and Haaland, yes, that would be the template. But having all 4 at the same time, maybe not. And that could be a differential, actually. News on Rice and Richards. So Rice was covered earlier, and essentially it's going to be down to a late test. His so I said earlier in the week that the swelling needs to come down for him to feature, and that he has a chance of making it into the squad. He travelled with the Arsenal team to face Bournemouth, and they're going to make a late decision in terms of his availability. Is he able to start, be on the bench? I personally think he'll make it on the bench, but not start the game against Bournemouth. As for Chris Richards, I'll give you the update from Oliver Glasner so you get a specific quote. So if both don't play, my cover's Enzo Fernandez and Anderson. Enzo's decent cover despite facing City, but I'm not a big fan of Anderson long term. He was always a bit of a short-term punt for me. He's done okay, but yeah, I'd be a little bit concerned about that, and maybe a defender transfer could be in your best interest there. So in regards to the Chris Richards injury, I did see an update the other day, but just to give you the exact quote, Oliver Glasner said, Chris is not back, and for Newcastle on Sunday, it will be quite tight. His foot is too swollen, so he can't wear a boot right now. It's too painful. So based on that, yeah, I don't think he's going to start in Game Week 20. Maybe we'll see a return in 21 or 22. Good morning, Dylan. Once again, thank you for your work, effort, and speech eloquence. Thank you very much. You're very kind, providing us great routes and thoughts towards bigger sources. You're much appreciated, Jose Ferreira. Thank you very much. I wish you a happy new year. Enjoy the time with your family and friends, and yeah, big up to you. So I appreciate the support. Raya to Pickford, Rice to Bruno Guimaraes, and Raul Jimenez to Bowen can take on Rice after Liverpool game for Cunha and Gabriel for Virgil then too. Looks solid. I do like those moves. The only thing is, how would you... So Rice in for Cunha and then Gabriel for Virgil van Dijk. I'm just wondering what money you've got in the bank, how many free transfers, but on paper it does sound quite promising. I'm not a massive fan of selling a player then buying him back in 1 or 2 weeks, but it could work in this case. I think Hincapié will start, but not Declan Rice. It was all covered just a few minutes ago. If you rewind, you'll see my predicted lineup section and also other graphics, which will give you a lot of insight for Game Week 20 and beyond. I'm looking at Minter to Ghana, Van Dijk to Gabriel for free next week. I'd do the same thing in your situation. Because at Minter's price and below, I think Ghana's the best midfielder right now, and Gabriel's the best defender in the game, so that's an upgrade. As a Chelsea fan, Todd Boehly is a weird owner, hired a new manager from the other club that he owns. Yeah, and some sources and reports indicate they don't actually even care about the kind of Strasbourg. I mean, I'm not even sure right now because so many conflicting reports are happening with Chelsea and Enzo Maresca, and it's a bit of a mess, to be fair. But yeah, the club is not run in a great way. They've got a policy of buying young talent and selling for a profit, but when it comes to winning, yeah, they're not going to be like Roman Abramovich, that's for sure. Hi, Dylan. Should I take a -4 to sell Raya to a full Gabriel? No. I'd do it for free next week. Start Anderson or Gay? Probably Anderson. Not much in it, though. I got Ekitike and Gordon. Yeah, so you're going to have a clash either way. Difficult one, to be fair, but I'm probably going to go for Anderson. Sell Verts, Minter or Rice. Happy New Year. Same to you, Mano. I'd rather sell Minter at the moment, but it also depends on the budget because at his price and below, you're quite limited with the options. Thank you, AG. Good morning from Sweden. Yes, and good morning from the UK. Hincapié Gabriel. Yes, if you can do it for free, I'd do it. AG says Raya, Ferdi, O'Reilly, Dallo, Gordon, Cherky, Cunha, Minter, Welbeck, Haaland, Ekitike. Excuse my ignorance, but I'm just wondering who Ferdi is. Yeah, maybe that's a nickname, or I don't know. Maybe my head's going blank, but decent squad. You've got double Brighton attack. Against Burnley, that could be quite promising, but I'm just not a big fan of that long term, so I would sell one of them fairly soon at least, but I think for this week, it's in a decent position. Thank you, Harrison James. Hope the New Year's treated you well so far, Dylan. Thanks for a great year of content and discussions. Here's on to the next. Much appreciated, and I look forward to the future discussions and videos and live streams headed your way. My lesson for playing FPL, keep it simple and hoping for luck of the game. Keeping it simple is, yeah, good advice. It sounds simple in practice, but I get what you're saying. Senesi to Van der Ven for free. I wouldn't buy Van der Ven. I'd rather go for Matty Cash, and I think an Everton defender would be better than Van der Ven. Neto replacements already own Rodgers, Saka, Bruno Guimaraes and Foden. Well, one thing you could consider is downgrading to Ghana and then having extra money in other positions. So maybe that allows you to go for Gabriel and Tarkowski defensively with Timber, possibly even Pickford in goal, something like that. So that's an option for you. But you don't have to sell Neto, especially if you've got free competent forwards. If you've got like a Guiu, for example, then fair enough. And Neto against City away doesn't look great, but I think Chelsea will use all of their transitional threat to really hurt City, and Neto will be key to that. Bench Rice or Alderete? I'd probably bench Alderete here, but it's close. Would you get any of Gordon or Bruno Guimaraes? I prefer Bruno Guimaraes long term, but Gordon is decent still. Should I start Keane or Wilson? I'd start Wilson. Hi Dylan, bench 2 between Van Dijk, Van Heck, Timber, Dallo, Lacroix. Also, what's the update with Minter's minutes? Well, with Minter's minutes, you can't really guarantee it either way, but Hurstler provided an update yesterday. I'll try and get the exact quote because I did see it on the Premier League website, so I think it was towards the beginning of the press conferences, so I'm just going to get to that. So, I think... yeah, I'm almost at the quote here. So yeah, Matoma is available for those who are unaware. And let's see. So yeah, nothing changed. Milner and Welbeck have both looked fine after the game at West Ham, so I think we'll have the same selection again. Vifa is out, and on Minter, he said the scan is fine. It was just a dead leg, so let's see how training goes today, and then we see if he can start. So I think he'll start and get 60 plus minutes. There is a chance that it is just before 60. We'll wait and see, and it all depends on the extent of the injury, but it was quite a positive update there from Hurstler. Hi Dylan, would you do a -4 or go O'Reilly to Cash and Grealish to Cherky? Does Rice start? I don't think Rice will start. And as for the -4 hit, no. I wouldn't do that for a hit. I think you keep O'Reilly for now. As for the other question by Drigger, bench 2, I would bench Lacroix, and this is where it gets a bit difficult, but I'd probably bench Dallo. Foden to Rodgers or Cunha to Rodgers? Interesting. Foden has been off it recently, but I would rather sell Matheus Cunha. Start to Alderete, Chow, Xhaka, Dallo. Chow and Dallo. Is Timber a sell, or should I prioritize my transfers elsewhere? Timber's not a sell. He's the second best defender in the game right now. Gabriel is quite clearly the best one, but Timber is still decent. I saw Onana limping, maybe he won't start. Yeah, that's possible. And Aston Villa have other options like Buendia, and that can push Tielemans a bit deeper. I'm not going to read out those numbers, but yeah, you've got quite a lot of genuine issues. Should I take a hit or wildcard? Well, what are these issues, so to speak? Let me know. But ideally I wouldn't wildcard. The thing is, though, if you feel like you need to make 7+ changes, or that they would be really beneficial long-term, then that's what the wildcard is there for. And you don't have to use it when most others will do so. And I think after Gameweek 30 or around that stage is ideal, considering all the blanks and doubles headed our way in March. What does the eye test say about United players? Fixture is good, yeah, but if you can't beat Wolves at home... Well, United are very inconsistent, we know this, right? And that's why they struggle to win 3 games in a row, let alone 5. But, yeah, I think with United players, like Cunha has a lot of shots, he's always busy and active, but he's been very disappointing this season. I just thought with the recent returns that we saw against Villa and Wolves, I thought he could maybe kick on from that and at least produce the return against Newcastle or Wolves afterwards, but that wasn't the case. We'll see how he does against Leeds and Burnley, but it made sense to buy him, in my opinion. But yeah, I think Rice would have been a better long-term investment, and then we've seen what happened with him, of course, with the injury, so luck is definitely a big part of FPL, but yeah, I've always said with Cunha, he's a short-term investment and nothing more than that. And so beyond the next 2 game weeks, I think with United, you could easily avoid for quite a while. The worst team in Premier League history takes easy point at Old Trafford, could have been 3. Well, to be fair, though, Wolves put up a good fight against Arsenal, who are top of the league, and the Gunners were really poor on the day and relied upon 2 own goals to win the match. So football's a funny game. And the Wolves, despite being the worst team in terms of results, they don't usually get battered. There's only a few occasions this season. One of them was against United, losing 4-1, but they usually lose by just 1 or 2 goals. So it's kind of a strange situation. Leeds is good with Stack and DCL. Yeah, Leeds are looking quite solid, and Daniel Farke's done a great job since he was on the cusp of getting sacked. Yeah, Danny, that question's been covered. I wouldn't go to Van der Ven. I offered suggestions earlier in terms of who to replace Senesi with. Good for United for giving Wolves a point to end the year with 3 points. What about Brennan Johnson to Palace? Will he go straight into the lineup this game week? That's possible. I think he'll be a substitute, and we'll see Johnson start in game week 21, but that's another good shout. And yeah, I think he'll get plenty of game time at Palace and be a clear starter on the right wing over Nketiah and Deveni. Start Igor Jesus or take a -4 Rice to Rodgers? I'd probably start Igor Jesus because I do like Rice long term, and if you can find a way to buy Rodgers without selling Rice, that'd be ideal. Semenyo to Rodgers -4 or just play Wilson and bench Semenyo? In this case, I just play Wilson. Dylan O'Reilly also got a slight injury against Sunderland. That's why he was taken off before 60 minutes. I saw the game. I think he might not play today. Well, that's what one of my friends who support City said, and I am aware of that. But yeah, look, I understand the O'Reilly stuff. He isn't yellow flagged in FPL, but yeah, he was subbed off for a reason there. I also think it's a bit of management and rotation, but yeah, I'm going to see if there's an exact quote by Guardiola on this, because I don't think he said anything about O'Reilly specifically. So it's kind of just rumours and yeah, nothing really explicitly said by Guardiola himself, but it's definitely worth bearing in mind. On the FPL site, it says Bruno might be back for United 17th of this month. He could be back earlier than that, which is what Amrim has suggested in recent press conferences. Hi Dylan, would you sell Grealish to Buendia? Not to Buendia. I'd rather go to Ghana actually, but it depends on what budget you're working with. If you can get to Rodgers, that is my top recommendation. Good to see you, Carlos. Hola crack, sacarías a Foden o Cunha por Rodgers. Tengo a Cunha, Foden, Paqueta, Rice, Guimaraes, Alderete, Haaland, Calvert-Lewin y Ekitike. Prefiero sacar a Cunha, pero digo la verdad, en este momento no me molesta vender a Foden tampoco, pero creo que es mejor vender a Cunha. I'd start Keane, but there is a chance he doesn't get the nod, so just bear that in mind. The Brav called Donnarumma, I'd start Donnarumma. So a lot of questions coming in. Let's get the likes up to 100 plus overall and close in on 38k on YouTube. I'm going to whiz through these here to catch up, so be patient. Zero says, Ekitike has been pissing me off. Might as well get Mark Guiu and Obi in my team. All strikers are crap. Well, they have been recently. That is true. But Ekitike, look, his first blank in a while came last week. And it was disappointing against Leeds at home. But yeah, I think for those that bought him earlier, it's a bit like me with the Foden situation. You're a bit calmer and more patient with the player because they've produced returns for you and helped you rise up the ranks. But he has been disappointing. Yeah, I think Cherki over Foden right now. I agree. Which cheapo long-term, Shada, Ghana, Paqueta, or suggestions? Ghana, which was covered in 2 of my videos this week. Hey Dylan, I have 4 free transfers. Should I do Raya to Sanchez, Senesi to Gabriel, Enzo to Rogers, and Ekitike to DCL? Or Raya to Sanchez, Senesi to Gabriel, and Enzo to Stack, and keep Ekitike? I would do the first set of transfers, and that includes selling Ekitike, but what I would say with Raya is I would only sell him to Sanchez if you need to free up an Arsenal slot for Gabriel. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. And maybe consider Roofs or Pickford instead of Robert Sanchez right now. But with the rest, I'm on board for sure. Start Mukiele or Keem? I'd go for Keem. 2-1 to City is very kind. I could easily see it being 4+. To be fair, I made these predictions before the Maresca news, actually, so I had it all set up from a few days ago. I am open to changing that, but yeah, 3-4-1 City is definitely possible. Take a -4 for Wilson to Paqueta or just play Wilson? Just play Wilson. It's not worth the hit. Would you sell Minter for a hit? Only got Senesi on my bench. Depends who you can sell Minter to. If you can get Rogers, then I would take the hit. Senesi and Raya to Gabriel and Pickford for a -4 already did it. Yeah, looks solid. I'm not a massive fan of goalkeeper transfers, especially for a -4, but I think long-term will pay off. Thiago to Bowen? Yes, is my answer. Keane or Wilson? Who should I start? I'd start, I think, Harry Wilson. I think Brentford will score. No bench cover. Rao and Anderson with flags. Dewsbury Hall. Should I take a punt on Paqueta for the short-run fixtures for a -4 or Ekitike out for Bowen for a -4 as well? It's not worth a hit, in my opinion, to be honest. Just wait until next week to make one of those moves, but mainly it would be Paqueta in for Dewsbury Hall, but not for a hit. Ekitike to Watkins. It's not a bad shout. If I was in a great position, I'd probably take a punt on something like that, but I still think Ekitike is better long-term. Hi Dylan, best replacement for Gay. I got Timber, Anderson, Virgil, and Keane. Yeah, so with Everton, for example, and getting Tarkowski, is it worth doubling up on the defense? Maybe not. Yeah, Gabriel, if you have enough money for him, I'd go for it, but yeah, Gabriel, Tarkowski are two of the standout defenders to buy at this moment in time. That could certainly change in a couple of weeks, but yeah, apart from that, you're looking at Cash or a Villa defender, but they're nothing spectacular, and I don't think you need to make a transfer there. Hey Dylan, my team, Sanchez, Incapia, Chow, Van der Ven, Gabriel, Cherky, Cunha, Foden, Voltemada, Haaland, Ekitike, with Semenyo, Gay, Potts on the bench, 0.1 on the bank, took a -4 for Szoboszlai, O'Reilly to Cherky, Gay. Okay, well, looks decent overall. Yeah, I'm not completely sure about the Szoboszlai to Cherky for a hit, but yeah, if I was wildcarding or picking between the two, Cherky would be the preference, so you're in good shape, that's for sure. So we've got a few super chats in the building. Big up here to Sid. Rogers or Bowen? And are they worth a hit this week? Rogers for me, but they're both really good options, consistent and talismanic figures for their clubs. Are they worth a hit? I'd say yes, but it also depends on who you're selling to get these players in. Aranya puts a squad. Martin, Chow, Van Dijk, Dallo. I'm guessing, is that Martinez or Martin Dubravka? But yeah, Chow, Van Dijk, Dallo, Wilson, Ryan, Cunha, Foden, Hugo, Thiago, Haaland, with Sanchez, Tavernier, Timber, and Nico on the bench. 1 free transfer, 0.1 on the bank. I'd still consider starting Timber, to be fair. Yeah. And I definitely have him ranked higher than Tavernier, but that's just my opinion. But Timber over Dallo would be my suggestion, actually. And in terms of moves, I think roll and have 2 free transfers next week. And that could really help and open up the possibilities for you to optimize your FPL squad. I have a feeling that Chelsea will do decently against City, hopefully, but I'm not that confident. Start 2 of Hall, Dallo, and Keane. I'd go for Lewis, Hall, and Keane. Okay, so let's see what else we can go through. Thank you, Sydney. Happy New Year as well. Wishing you all the best in 2026. The same goes to you. I echo your sentiments, and good luck for Gameweek 20 and beyond. AK94 says, hey Dylan, back for one more question. Would you do Minter to Ghana for a -4 as I still have a flagged Keane and Dewsbury Hall on the bench? I wouldn't take a hit for that. And I appreciate your comments as well. All the best. Well, the rough dates, I think Arsenal play Chelsea in mid-January. So literally in under 2 weeks' time. And the second leg will be in early February. Hi Dylan, I want to make a goalkeeper transfer. Who do you reckon? Verbruggen looks promising, but my preference is with Riffs. Wilson to Brighton mid. Gomez worth a punt. Well, Gomez scored against Arsenal recently. He has been decent for Brighton this season, but I think Wilson is still better than those Brighton mids long term. Sell Minter for a hit. I've got Senesi on the bench. This was covered early, I think, mate. But depends who you can buy for Minter. If you can get Rodgers, then my answer is yes. If you're kind of limited to players at 6.5 or below, then I'd probably just hold on to Minter for now. Saka to Rice, no. I wouldn't do that yet. And Rice might not even start against Bournemouth, which was covered earlier. Okay, so let's whiz through the rest of the questions as well. Ashwin says, hey Dylan, hope you're doing well. Would you sell Semenya for a -4? Rest of my team, Allison, Gabriel, Tarkovsky, O'Reilly, Alderete, Dallo, Foden, Rice, Cunha, Lefay, Ekitike, Bowen, Haaland. Would I do it for a -4? No, not for a -4 hit this week. Even though the temptation is to sell him to Rodgers, but not sure if I'll do that for a hit. Thoughts on Bowen captain and start Mukiele or C defender? Well, Bowen is ranked quite highly in my top 10 captaincy list. I think he's a decent choice, but West Ham can be very unpredictable and inconsistent. I'd go for a C defender over Mukiele, but that's also quite close. Thanks for the super chat here. And also to Relax Eye Gamer for being a member for a month. Massively appreciated. So Anish puts a squad. Hey Dylan. Ruffs, Gabriel, Van Dijk, Dorgu, Saka, Foden, Cunha, Gordon, Haaland, Calvert-Lewin, Ekitike, with Dubravka, Garner, Anderson and Chalobah on the bench. Any thoughts? No free transfers. Yeah, in terms of taking a hit for this, I don't think it's necessary. But in the future, Dorgu's not someone I'd want to start week in, week out, but he will essentially be your fifth defender, and you'll start Chalobah more often when Chelsea's fixtures get better. So I think for now it's good, but there are a few short-term picks in here, like Matheus Cunha, Gordon, and even someone like Foden could be a sell very soon. And this gives you a unique opportunity to potentially get Palmer alongside Saka. That could work very well with your setup. Van Dijk and Raya to Gabriel and Riffs for a -4. No. And I like Gabriel a lot, but not for me. Sydney says Captain Bowen, Saka, Foden, Rodgers or Ekitike. From those players, look, it's between Saka, Ekitike and Rodgers. I'll be honest, with my top 10 captains, I am quite tempted to change it up a little bit. So I had Ekitike second in my list. I had Rodgers third and Saka fourth. I think Ekitike might go down to fourth here. So I'm going to say Rodgers would be my favourite. Very close one, though. And I'll try to do that as well before the deadline locks in. So let's see if I can get this done. Okay. Because we'll probably go through the top 10 captains one last time before the next hour. We have 48 minutes left. You can see the timer as well on screen. So make sure to lock everything in. Okay. Okay, so yeah, just editing the top 10 captains, because I think over the last couple of days anyway, changed a little bit from when I set these up. So yeah, I think something like this is quite close between Saka and Rodgers this week, to be fair. That is definitely interchangeable. Okay. So I'm also going to whiz through the questions. Start Vandenberg or Mukiele? Mukiele. I'm not even sure if Vandenberg will start. Good to see you, Checkmate. Just a question, will O'Reilly start? I think he will, but there are some doubts about him, and people have pointed towards him being subbed off against Sunderland early due to injury. Well, the best Everton defender besides Tarkowski is Keane, but he's yellow flagged. But in terms of O'Brien and Mikalenko, I mean, they're okay. Ultimately, the bulk of these points will be from clean sheets, but what kind of separates Tarkowski and Keane from the rest is the DEFCON potential, which is very high. Good to see you, Jamie. Hi, Dylan. Would you start Reece James or Alderete or Gay? Probably Alderete this week, which sounds crazy. James has the highest ceiling, but he's up against the best attacking team in the country, so I think Chelsea will concede a couple of goals. Palace have a poor record at St James's Park, and their record recently has been awful. They're winless in 5-6 matches across all competitions. Good things I didn't say 6 and the next number. Yeah, I think Alderete would be the one. Van Dijk out to Tarkowski. Yes, I think I would do that. Hey Dylan, I just bought in Gabriel. What do you think about a 5 at the back? Van Dijk, Frimpong, Hall, Gabriel, Dorgu, midfielders Rice, Marino, Grealish, Semenyo, Wilson, Raul, Haaland, Ekitike up front. Yeah, I like the Gabriel transfer. I think 5 at the back makes sense with your situation. I'd probably go for it, but I think Marino and Grealish are sells in your case, and you've also doubled up on Fulham offensively. I would change that as well. Good morning, Dylan. Start 2, Dorgu, Dalot, O'Reilly, Chow. Punted on 2 United defenders last week for a bench boost, but already sick of them. Yeah, I think a lot of us can relate to that. I would start Dalot. Definitely Chow. Chow would be in this team 100%. Then it's between O'Reilly and Dalot. I think in this case, I would go for O'Reilly. Turkish right back at Brighton is Ferdi. Okay, fair enough. So Kadioglu. Yeah, he can play left back and right back and also in more advanced positions. Start 2, Elliot Anderson, Minter and O'Reilly. Minter and O'Reilly. Yeah, he is a left back by trade, but he can also play on the right, so that's why people can get confused by that. Start 2 from Chalobah, Heaven, Anderson, and also 2 from DCL, Minter, Wilson. I'd go for Heaven, Anderson, DCL, and Minter. Happy New Year to you as well. Just at the airport, heading back home from my vacation in Malaysia. Hope you had a great time and enjoy, yeah, the travel and also your time back in the country. So much appreciated and all the best for 2026. The same goes to John K. Thank you very much. Best Minter replacement up to 8.5 million. Only 1 free transfer. Morgan Rogers, depending on if you have him or not. If this is my first week, which team is the best? Thank you and Happy New Year. Which team is the best? Oh, so I was going to say Arsenal. In terms of FPL, well, that's where the best wildcard squad comes into play. So check out that video. I made it yesterday, and it essentially builds upon this, what you're going to see right now. I can't say this is like the absolute definitive best because this can change week on week, and ultimately, the wildcard is a long-term tool, but this will give you a very solid platform for success, green arrows, and rising up the ranks. But of course, if you're starting now, then yeah, you're just going to play for fun and learn about the game and see what your sort of managerial style is when it comes to Fantasy Premier League. So I'm going to have the top 10 captains ready for you any second now. And then I'll go through that in the next 20 minutes or so. Okay. Okay, so this should all be done. In terms of scoreline predictions as well, I'm going to see, but yeah, I think Man City a bigger win here. Yeah, I think with the rest, I'd keep it quite stable. Wolves against West Ham as well. That's a difficult one to predict. And you know what? I'm going to give Brighton a win here. Let's go for a Brighton win. Go on, get a win. Surely. Okay, so just a few modifications here to some of the predictions. And yeah, a lot has happened over the last couple of days, especially with the Enzo Maresca bombshell. Although that has been building up for a few weeks now. But what I'm going to do here is go back to the team, answer more questions for the next 10-20 minutes, and then go through all the graphics, data, and team news one more time. Bench boost with Petrovic, Dorgu, Chow, and Miley. It's not a bad bench, to be fair. It's quite decent, but yeah, I think that would push you towards using the free hit triple captain and the wild card around the sort of Game Week 30 period with all the blanks and doubles. Now, there will be potentially an opportunity to bench boost in a double, but yeah, that looks pretty decent, to be fair. Petrovic is the only one that lets it down. Yeah, probably after Game Week 30 easy, and it's all covered in my chip strategy guide. I'm open-minded though. I will adapt depending on the FPL landscape, but that is my current plan. Start Harry Wilson or Elliot Anderson, or use a free transfer. Start Wilson. Here are the issues I mentioned, says Inbred Pancake, great name. Vandenberg, O'Reilly, Rice, Semenyo, Gisbury Hall, Richards, Achimpong have genuinely no bench. I don't know if I can even field 11 this week. Yeah, so Rice is a good long-term option, and Semenyo, depending on what happens with him. I mean, he'll likely join City, but that opens up a lot of question marks. I think O'Reilly will start, but I get why you're a bit conflicted about that. With the rest, though, I completely agree. You know, Vandenberg, I don't think will start. Richards probably available in 21 or 22, and he's not looking great right now anyway. Achimpong is not really it. No bench as well. So yeah, I would wildcard in your situation, and the team I just showed you a few minutes ago would help you a lot. Why are Spurs clean sheet odds so high this week? Yeah, good question. It's taken from the website FPL fantasyfootballpundit.com. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's so high, to be fair, but there you go. Is Timber a sell, or should I prioritize my transfers elsewhere? Prioritize elsewhere, as covered earlier. Would you start Minter? Yes, but depends who you're talking about as the alternative. I already used my transfers Rice to Sharda and Anderson to Chow. Decent moves, but I think Rice is better than Sharda long term. Hey Dylan, who to start between Mukiele and Anderson? Mukiele. Yeah, I've covered this a few times, Danny, I'm not going to lie. My answer is no. Keep or sell Minter for Paqueta. Is Paqueta even fit? Well, both of them are doubtful, apparently. The Paqueta rumours have circulated this morning, it seems, so I'm not exactly sure what's happening there, but I'd probably keep Minter in this case. Which one to bench, please? Saka, Cherky, Gordon, Wirtz, Cunha, Calvert-Lewin. Also, will Keane start? I've got Keane in my predicted 11. I can't guarantee it, but that's just my opinion. I think he will get the nod. And David Moyes gave nothing away in his press conference. In terms of the benching question, it's very close, but I think I might even bench Cunha here. I'm not going to lie to you. Who to bench? Pick one. Timber, Gabriel, Dorgu, Keane. Really close one. Gabriel should not be in this debate for me. He definitely starts every week. With the rest, depends how confident you are of an Arsenal clean sheet. I've gone for 1-0. So based on that prediction, I'd start both Timber and Gabriel, and I'd probably bench Dorgu. Wilson or Goodmanson, or take a -4 to replace Wilson, 4.3 in the bank. I'd start Wilson. I need another 4.2 or under defender. Already have Mukiele and Alderete. I don't like this. Having 4 to 4.2 million defenders is an imbalanced structure, in my opinion. That's just the way I see it. Maybe you've got Palmer, Saka, Haaland, and you're going to get Bruno when he's fit. You know, that looks good, but I'm not a big fan of that. So from those players you mentioned, I'm going to say Dorgu. Matson's not a bad shout, but someone talked a lot about him earlier. And we saw in recent matches that Luka Dean can come in quite easily. So, yeah, I think Dorgu's the one for now. Harrison James says 2 free transfers, Minter, Bruno Guimaraes, and Thiago, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So the lineup, Raya, Gabriel, Cash, Chow, Saka, Rogers, Foden, Bruno Guimaraes, Haaland captain, DCL, Ekitike, with Dubravka, Wilson first on the bench, O'Reilly, Joachim Andersen. Looks solid. I think that's good bench cover this week, actually, and you're in a strong position. Yeah, I'm currently starting O'Reilly, and it's not looking particularly great, to be fair. So overall, I do like the look of it. I am open to doing something like O'Reilly to Tarkowski. That is something I'm definitely looking at, but yeah, I think you're in a good position. No need to make any further moves just yet, but that could change, of course, for the other deadline coming up. Would you start Minter? That's been covered. Just depends on the situation, but I wouldn't mind starting him against Burnley this week. I think he'll start. Are we too reliant on the players against the easy fixture team? Yeah, sometimes it's more than just fixtures. It's about form, it's about playstyles and matchups, and that's what I try to provide with all my analysis, not just looking at the best fixtures. But yeah, I think it's an easy trap to fall into. Start 1, the Kuiper against Burnley, Wilson, Mukiele, have Virgil though. Thanks, Dylan, and Happy New Year to you. Thank you, one for all. The same goes to you. Out of those players, I would probably start the Kuiper. But yeah, I think that's a decent shout. I mean, Wilson, for example, could haul against Liverpool, but of course you would have a clash in your team. Rodgers to Eze for a -4. I'm guessing, yeah, Rodgers, yeah, in? Yeah, I'd do it. Which player we buy in this category for the 2 easy fixtures but end up with disappointing? Well, there are plenty of examples over the last couple of weeks. I think Cunha's one of them. Igor Thiago for some people as well, including myself. Time to sell Semenyo to Rodgers? I would say yes, Steve. Foden or Cherky? Cherky. Thoughts on Watkins captain? He's 5th in my list, which you saw earlier, and the updated version will be shown very soon. Yes, Awali, the goal is completed. Let's go through the member questions and catch up to the chat here, and I'll try to answer the rest in due course. And thank you to Punjabi for moderating the messages as well. Relax Eye Gamer says, hi Dylan, Keane and Bowen for a -4 this week, or just Bowen? Thank you. Just Bowen. And there's no guarantee that Keane starts anyway, but with Bowen, I would have no such concerns. So, yeah, that's the way I'd go about it. Keith says, hi Dylan, Happy New Year. The same goes to you. Happy New Year, mate. Start Raul Jimenez or Thiago. Given the fact Everton have been great defensively, I'm thinking Raul is the better option, but Thiago is on pens. Well, to be fair, so is Raul Jimenez, right? But I'd still lean towards Thiago, personally. And that's why I'm not that infused, let's say, about buying Tarkowski for O'Reilly. Even though long-term that is a good move, I just think in terms of timing, in my prediction, for example, I've got both teams to score, Everton and Brentford. So, difficult one to say, but I think it would be Thiago. Gordon or Rodgers? Rodgers. Yeah, I think Trossard will start. He is the first choice left winger for Arsenal. Should I buy Chow or Dallo? Chow. Should Semenyo be sold with the rumours of him to City? Well, there's also the Arsenal fixture coming up next. His last game for Bournemouth, it looks like. So yeah, with the uncertainty about how long will it take Semenyo to start consistently, will he adapt to his new team quickly? I think there is definitely a case to sell him, as I talked about in my Transfers podcast 2 days ago, and this could change very soon and he becomes a hold or a purchase, but I think for the time being, he is more of a sell. -4 for Tarkowski, I'm going to say no here, but it depends on the situation, right? Because you might have no bench and something like that, so I understand it, but I would probably not take the hit and do it for free next week. Ekitike to Watkins is a luxury move. I still think Ekitike is better long-term. Any changes needed? Raya, Gabriel, Van Dijk, Tarkowski, Enzo, Guimaraes, Rodgers, Wilson, Ekitike, Thiago, Hallen captain, with Dubravka, Keane, Anderson, and Joachim Anderson on the bench. I think that's fine. The way you've ordered things, you've got a double up in the Arsenal defence, and you've also got 2 Everton defenders, but of course Keane is not in your starting 11. So yeah, I think for this week you're looking good. I'd go for the same sort of structure. You do have a few clashes like Thiago against Tarkowski and Van Dijk against Wilson, but I still think it's a good squad. Thank you, Harrison James. Much appreciated. Appreciate as always, Dylan. Best of luck to you and everyone in the chat. Good luck as well, Harrison James. All the best. Rodgers captain. He's ranked very highly in my list. He's 3rd. So I do like him. Best mid to 6 million as Wilson replacement. Ghana. Ratchet says, hey Dylan, I have Van Dijk, Richard, Senesi, O'Reilly, Collins, Foden, Wilson, Minter, Bruno Guimaraes, Saka, Haaland, Ekitike, Kripke Jr., 4 free transfers and 0.5 in the bank. I need to climb up the ranks. I'm 2 million now. Yeah, I get that, but at least you've got 4 free transfers. A little bit of money in the bank as well will help. So I would look to get Gabriel in. So Van Dijk to Gabriel could be on the cards for you. So let's see how we can make this work. So something I'd consider here is actually downgrading Foden to Rodgers. And that will give you enough money to do, well, buy Gabriel in, possibly even Tarkowski defensively. I think that's what I'd look to do for the time being. And then you can still have 2 free transfers next week. And then you could look to make more moves, ideally in the midfield. But I would keep Minter this week. There is a case to maybe sell Wilson. But yeah, I would buy Morgan Rodgers in and Gabriel if possible. Watkins is my talisman with the captaincy. Well, all the best with that. Watkins can be a bit of a troll, but it's a decent fixture for him. Yeah, Eze is a clear sell for me. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. And should I buy Chow or Dallo? Chow. Would you start Mukiele or Chow? I would start Chow there. Okay, so I'm going to put a poll out and I'll see what you lot think. And after that, I'm going to go through all the graphics, team news and stuff like that. So let's get the stream up to 100 plus likes and also close in on new goals like 38k on YouTube. We are very close to reaching that amount of subscribers. That'll be the first goal achieved when it comes to the count for the calendar year. So let's do this poll and get this show on the road. Okay. Okay, so first up would be Cunha to Rodgers. O'Reilly to Tarkowski. And to be fair, I think I could do both. If I go here to the transfer section, so let's go to the transfer section here. Okay. Okay, so Cunha to Rodgers, and then Gabriel in for O'Reilly. Oh, I'm just 0.1 off, you absolute twat. Yeah, and that is for a -4 to be fair. But yeah, the price rises for Gabriel and Rodgers this week will have obviously priced me out of that. But that's where I could get a different defender in. And to be fair, I'd probably keep O'Reilly here and then sell Joachim Andersen. Just don't like his fixtures in general. So yeah, then 5.7, I could go to Tarkowski. That works. So yeah, I'm going to show you that. Okay. So then it would be O'Reilly. Let's do both. Okay, there you go. I think these are pretty much my transfer plans at this point, but getting Gabriel would be a priority for me. But my only clear route is by selling Timber, and I just don't think it's the best use of my transfer at this moment in time. In terms of the other moves, I mean, Thiago to Bowen is something else I'd consider. And I could make that happen, actually, by by selling Rodgers as well, keeping Anderson for now. It just would make getting Gabriel even more difficult in the future, but still possible. It just requires even more navigating. So 0.2 in the bank here. Yeah, my only route would be through Timber, actually. Okay. And then sell both for... So that would be O'Reilly, Cunha, and Thiago. To Rodgers and Bowen, -4. It's so annoying, the stupid character limit on YouTube. But yeah. Okay, so these are my final transfer plans. That could even include a -4 hit. So yeah, I'll go for the super chat first, and then I'm going to go through the graphics. So Paredes says, start 1, Miley, Alderete, Mukiele. Long term, is it better to move Van Dijk or O'Reilly to Gabriel? Isn't it better to roll? I still think Gabriel's worth the investment. And Arsenal don't have great fixtures, but they can keep clean sheets against anybody. So from the starting question, I would go for Mukiele. So long term, is it better to sell Van Dijk or O'Reilly? Probably O'Reilly. The thing is with Van Dijk, though, I can still see him as expendable in a couple of weeks' time. Any Thiago news? Not necessarily any Thiago news. You'll start against Everton. I would imagine there's not really any problems there, but I'm looking to make an upgrade because he has been quite underwhelming since I brought him into my normal team. Before that, yeah, I had him on the free hit. He did fairly well for me, but he has tailed off in recent weeks. I think he could get back to form. It would not surprise me if I sold him when he scored against Everton. These things can happen, but yeah, he's fine. What about Spurs defenders? Just not a big fan. I mean, Van der Ven's the best of a bad bunch. He does cost 4.5. Would I rather have him than Dalot and Anderson? Yes, and also Nathaniel Klein, but he wouldn't be a priority for me. But I understand why people are maybe getting a bit of interest in those Spurs defenders. Hello, my friend. I'm new. I'm 5,392 in overall ranking. Yeah, that's a great rank to be at this stage of the season, and yeah, it's looking very promising. Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it. And as he says, let's get the likes up to 100 plus, and then but to 150 plus, I'd say, by the end of the stream. When do new transfers usually become available? The game updates around 30-40 minutes after the deadline has passed. So basically in an hour's time, maybe just a little bit more, the game will be updated and you can make transfers. Who to sell, Ekitike or Thiago? I'll be honest, I'd be more keen on selling Ekitike from a funds perspective, but it all depends on the circumstances. Start Gravenberch or Minter? I'd start Minter. Which two would you start out of Chalobah, O'Reilly and Marcus Tavernier? O'Reilly and probably Tavernier, but yeah, that's not ideal, to be honest with you. Thank you, Keith, for gifting a membership. Massively appreciated as always. So to Mark Raving Mad, enjoy it, and Keith is the one to thank there. Thank you, Scorpie. Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, Declan Rice is going to face a late fitness test, and he has travelled with the Arsenal squad, but that doesn't mean he's going to be included. We saw this happen recently with other Arsenal players too, but there is a chance, and I'll go through that update in literally just a few minutes as well. Before I do, though, let's go to the FDR. And Nottingham Forest, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Liverpool and Man City are in the bottom 5, and just last week Arsenal were down there, and they're now up to 8th in this table. Brighton, Newcastle, Spurs, Everton and West Ham complete the top 5 list. With predicted points, Haaland, Saka, Semenyo, Cunha, Foden, Gabriel, Odegaard, Ekitike, Bruno Guimaraes, Trossard are all in this exclusive list here for the highest predicted points until Game Week 25. So this is the update I was referring to with Declan Rice. He travelled with the Arsenal squad for the game tomorrow, and this was posted yesterday. The England international pushed all day to play against Villa earlier this week, but fell just short, and the final decision will be made today. So we'll see if Declan Rice is available, but I think he'll be on the bench. I don't back him to start, but he is very robust and usually injury-free. Hopefully he can remain fit until the end of the season. With projected price changes, let's refresh this and see what has changed here. So Rodgers, Bruno Guimaraes, Rufs, Paqueta, Pickford, Matheus Nunes, Gabriel, Gordon, Odegaard, and Saliba could all rise in price tonight. The same goes for Chow as well. So Gabriel could rise again. Wow, people are really pushing for Gabriel. As for price fallers, Marino, Richards, Hincapié, Lacroix, Raul Jimenez, Tavernier, Chalobah, Voltemada, Grealish, and Gusto. And there are even more where that came from. We could also see Barnes, Gibbs-White, a random Brian player here, King, Adams, Minter, Hermanson, Damsgaard, and also Anderson from Sunderland go down in price too. So I compared the stats earlier of these two players, Rodgers and Cunha. This could be my transfer this week, buying in Morgan Rodgers for a player who I bought in just 2 weeks ago. But yeah, it has been a bit of a rough patch over the last 4 game weeks, and before that it was consistent green arrows and progress, but now I've hit some bumps on the road. It's time to get back on track in 2026. Cunha has better underlying numbers in a lot of these, mainly with the goal scoring and the shot volume, but Rodgers has more goals, assists, big chance created, and key passes, although some of these stats are identical, which includes chance created and XA. But yeah, Cunha, promising numbers. He hasn't really delivered this season, and Rodgers has been outstanding over the last month or so with a few 15-pointers in there. So this is the best wildcard squad essentially for Game Week 20. I will not be using the free hit this week personally, and if you did use the free hit in Game Week 19, you cannot use it this week because with that chip, you can't use it in back-to-back game weeks. But with the wildcard as well, my advice and recommendation for most people is to save it for as long as possible, but every situation is different, and you might have too many fives to put out, and you would be tempted to wildcard. I won't lie to you, I'm also tempted to play the wildcard, but I just played it a few weeks ago, and I used 5 free transfers, so I've been very aggressive with those moves, and it hasn't paid off in recent weeks. With FPL Challenge, I'll go back to this very soon, but clean sheets is basically the aim of the game this time round. You get double points for any of them, so the challenge is called Clean Start. Ruffs, Gabriel Captain, Tarkovsky, Chow, Rodgers and Haaland is my current FPL Challenge setup, but I am open to changing a few aspects of this squad, and by the time we get to the deadline, I'll be gifting memberships to the viewers, and it's also a way of saying thank you for the super chatters, the patrons, the members, and all the support you've shown over the last couple of years, and also to those that gift memberships too. A big up to all of you, and thank you very much for your support. Thank you, Twister Parky. Yes, I remember your comment from the last stream. Comparison stats is something you love. In every single deadline stream, I show a comparison, essentially, but yeah, I'm open to showing even more comparisons as well, and maybe letting the viewers decide with polls and stuff like that, and changing it up a little bit. Yeah, thank you, Keith, as well. Massively appreciated. Enjoy the membership. Whoever wins, please like and subscribe, people. Exactly that. Much appreciated, mate. Play 2, Dorgu, Mukiele, Wilson. Good question. I would go for Dorgu and Wilson. Good to see you, Ignacio. Happy New Year, amigo. Hincapié por Gabriel y Voltemada por Bowen -4. Sí, yo lo haría. Creo que vale la pena. A largo plazo, creo que el -4 será suficiente y creo que vas a tener muchos más puntos en tu equipo. Keen to Gabriel and Ryder for Bruggen -4. No, not for me, but I understand why you're doing this. There's not really any news on Keane. David Moyes said he doesn't want to give anything away on him or Alcaraz, but I do back him to start. He is in my predicted lineup, but that's just my opinion. I've seen a few lineups from other sources like The Guardian who have Michael Keane in their prediction, but yeah, you can't guarantee it. Mateus Nunes or O'Reilly? Well, Nunes is a bit safer right now, but I think O'Reilly is still the better pick long term. Play Keane or Van der Ven? I'd play Keane. -4 Ekitike to Watkins? No. Rajat says, hi Dylan, fearing price rises yesterday, did 2 transfers for a -4 hit to bring in Gabriel and Kelleher for O'Reilly and Raya. Thoughts? Yeah, I think overall, you know, the Gabriel move is great. I'm just not a big fan of Kelleher. So Verbruggen, in my opinion, is better. There's also Ruffs and Pickford. They're the standout goalkeepers, but I understand why he made those moves. Start Rice, DCL, Alderete, Calvert-Lewin. Start O'Reilly or Mukiele. I'd start O'Reilly. Who to buy in the midfield for 6.8? Already have Foden, Bruno Guimaraes, Wilson, Minter, maybe Garner or Grealish. I would not buy Grealish. Garner is the better Everton midfielder. Adamax says, hi Dylan, got O'Reilly. Let me just get back the question. De Kuyper, Van Dijk, Foden, Wirtz, Cunha, Minter, Haaland, Thiago, Ekitike, took out Van Dijk for Gabriel, Minter for Gordon, and Wirtz for Rodgers, all for free. Looks good, and that's why it's very important to have even more transfers stacked up. In situations like this, it can be very useful. Timber to Gabriel this week, given the price rises, don't want to miss the train. If you're happy with the rest of your team, then yes, but I still like Timber. I could also buy Gabriel, to be honest, and I want to buy him in. And yeah, I kind of regret not doing it last week, even though Timber did a solid job, but I'd probably do it. How is Rice today? I haven't seen any updates, to be fair. I'll have a look. Hopefully we get some clarification before the deadline, but I wouldn't count on it, to be fair. So let's see. But yeah, that update from Hand of Arsenal was posted 12 hours ago, so it was last night. That's the most recent update I've seen. I'm going to have a look at a few Arsenal pages that relay information and see if they have anything. Nah, that was the latest update, I think, which I've already covered. Best defender at 4.5 and under. Interesting question. 4.5 and under. I mean, to be fair, Van der Ven could enter this equation. I'm not going to deny that. I think at that price and below, he's probably the best of a bad bunch. Bit of a late one doing predictions. Yes, I'm going to go through those graphics actually within the next couple of minutes because I've just been answering questions recently. And it's so damn cold this morning. Yes, yesterday was freezing as well. That's for sure. Will Rodgers start? They didn't post his image. Yeah, I think Rodgers will start. I wouldn't look too much into that. Yeah, Easy, you asked this question earlier. I'm quite open-minded, but as covered in my chip strategy video, the plan is to use my chips around the Game Week 30 period, so after that specific game week. Chalobah to Gabriel and Van Dijk to Kadioglu. Yeah, Kadioglu looks decent for this week, but not a big fan long-term. Chalobah to Gabriel is a massive upgrade, so I do like that, of course. Start the Kuyper or Dorgu. The Kuyper. Minter to a cheap mid. Deveni. Dorgu to Gabriel for -4. Yeah, Dorgu to Gabriel looks amazing, but Minter to a cheap mid just depends really, because do you also have Guiu or a budget forward up front? If that's the case, my answer is going to be a resounding no for this. Okay, so let's now go back to my scoreline predictions with the updated versions. So Aston Villa 3, Nottingham Forest 1. I've gone for a Brighton win this time, but if they drop points against Burnley, it would not surprise me too much. Wolves 1, West Ham 1, Bournemouth 0, Arsenal 1. A goalless draw between Leeds and United, but maybe that's not going to be the case. Everton 1, Brentford 1. A 2-2 draw between Fulham and Liverpool. And Newcastle to win 2-0 against Crystal Palace. Tottenham 1, Sunderland 1. And Man City 3, Chelsea 1. So next up is the highlight player and team weakness, and I'm focusing on Nottingham Forest this week, who are winless in the last 4 matches, and Morgan Rodgers, who went up in price to 7.5 million a couple of days ago. He is one of my top recommendations this week, which will also be shown in the top 10 captaincy. But with the clean sheet odds, Brighton are top, Arsenal, Tottenham, Aston Villa, Newcastle, and Everton complete the top 6. These are all taken by the website fantasyfootballpundit.com. And in last spot is Chelsea against Man City away. Only a 14% probability of keeping a clean sheet. But next up is the top 10 captains. And I've got Calvert-Lewin in 10th spot. Wirtz, Foden, Bowen, and Gabriel just outside the top 5. People have asked about Ollie Watkins. That's a nice differential when it comes to the armband. But we all know how much of a troll he can be. Ekitike is 4th. And I've got Rodgers, Saka, and Haaland in the podium. So a bit of a switcheroo there. But I think Saka is a bit more enticing than Ekitike right now. Maybe that's going to be a bit of a mistake there, but we'll see. I'll let the lineups play out, and yeah, it's. I'll kind of highlight the main bits and bobs here. So Declan Rice could still feature and start for Arsenal, but my prediction is for him to be on the bench and to start against Liverpool at home in Game Week 21 instead. For Aston Villa, both Kamara and Cash are back from suspension. We could see 1 or 2 modifications. Maatsen against Dean is always a debate. And we could even see Buendia start over Onana and Tielemans play a deeper position. For Bournemouth, I think the main bit here is Semenyo. He should start. Iriel has been very consistent on that, but that could be his last game in a Bournemouth shirt. Moving on to Brentford, I think they'll go for this 4-3-3 again. Igor Thiago is still worth holding in many situations, and with Vandenberg, I don't think he'll start over Adjer or Collins. And for Brighton, I'm going for Minter to start, and Mitoma is available again, and I think it'll be an unchanged side from that draw against West Ham. And that was my only correct scoreline prediction, I think, from last week. With Burnley, I think they'll go for this back three again, and quite a consistent lineup. Pires has become the established left wing-back, even over Hartman, and I think in terms of FPL, only Dubravka is of interest. Chelsea have a lot of unknowns and question marks about them now, but I think they'll go for a stable starting 11, and I think one of Esteval or Garnacho will start, but I'm quite confident on Neto, Palmer, and Joao Pedro. Caicedo, of course, is suspended for that game against City, and for Crystal Palace, we could see Johnson start at right wing, even in Nketiah, but I've gone for Devaney at this moment in time. And there are some rumours circulating around, which I'll talk about later. But with Michael Keane and Alcaraz, David Moyes said in his press conference he didn't want to give too much away. I think Keane will start, and the rest will be fairly stable and solid, considering the absentees that Everton have due to injuries and AFCON. With Fulham as well, they've been quite stable with their 11 in recent weeks, and I think they'll go for something identical against Liverpool at home. And with Leeds United, they found this sort of formula with this back five, and they're unbeaten in the last 5 matches, I believe. They've been very solid, and Calvert-Lewin has been outstanding. Liverpool could rotate a little bit here. Gakpo is a possible starter. Bradley could be the right back with Frimpong playing further forward, and that would mean Szoboszlai as the attacking midfielder. So there are different options here for the Premier League champions. Robertson against Kirkes is yet another example. And with Man City, there are some doubts about O'Reilly, but I've got him in this predicted lineup. The same goes for Rodri over Nico Gonzalez, who sustained an injury in that goalless draw against Sunderland. And the same goes for Savio as well. But Doku is available for Man City. And looking at United, I think they'll go for a very similar team to the one that drew 1-1 against Wolves. But Mason Mount is back, and he could start over Xerxes. Newcastle United have plenty of players returning, like Livramento and also Trippier. And even Sven Botman could be in and around the squad, according to Eddie Howe. And Lewis Hall should be fine, but he is yellow flagged in FPL at this moment in time. But the main rotation will happen in the forward line. So Visser could start there. And with Nottingham Forest, they've been quite stable with their 11 as well. John is now the established goalkeeper. We'll see if Sells can reclaim that number 1 spot. Sinchenko versus Savona will be interesting. And of course, if Savona starts, Nico Williams would start at left back. With Sunderland as well, they look pretty promising actually over the next 4 game weeks, and Roofs is the standout goalkeeper up until this point of the season. Mukiele and Alderete offer great value in that defensive line. And with Tottenham Hotspur, Van de Ven could be of interest at 4.5 million, but apart from that, I'm not too keen on this. We could also see Bentancur, Paulinho and Gray as a midfield free, and that would mean Bergvall would drop out. The last 2 teams include West Ham. There are rumours of Paqueta having a problem or missing out. I'm not sure how reliable these rumours are, but it's worth just bearing that in mind. And I've ultimately got him in this predicted 11. This was from the last couple of days, and I'm going to stick with it for now. But that would be a massive blow for the Hammers if Paqueta were to miss out. And if Todibo is available, I think he'll start over Mavropanos. With Wolves, I'm going for this back 3 again, and I think they'll go for Mane, Hwang Hee-chan and Tolu up front, and Strand Larsen would be an impact sub. But Andre is now back from suspension, and hopefully this has helped you in terms of keeping up to date with the suspensions, injuries, and team news with a lot of updates from Friday's press conferences. So let's now whiz through these questions, and there's another super chat in the building from Haribo, a long-time viewer of the channel. Hi Dylan, thoughts on Gordon as a pick? I like him short-term, but I've been very consistent on this. Bruno Guimaraes is the best Newcastle midfielder, and I wish I kept him because he was one of my picks on the wildcard. But in order to get Ekitike at the time, I sold him to Potts, essentially. But yeah, I think Bruno Guimaraes is the best Newcastle midfielder for me. Gordon would be second. First on the bench, Alderete or Dorgu? Very, very close. I'd lean towards Dorgu, but ever so slightly. I think Rice will be in the squad, but not start against Bournemouth. Battle of the Andersons. Who should I start? Elliot Anderson. Hope my -8 pays off. Yeah, we talked about that in the Discord server. All the best there. Who would you bench? I think the way you've got it is fine because in my prediction, and I hope I haven't jinxed it, I've gone for 1-0 Arsenal. So, yeah, I think your starting 11 makes a lot of sense. In terms of the bench order, I also agree with it. I'm not sure who's third on your bench because you only mentioned 2 outfield players there, but yeah, the only question mark here, though, is Declan Rice. So there is a case to start one of O'Reilly or Van de Ven over Rice, but apart from that, I think you've ordered things very well, and I wouldn't change too much, especially in that defensive line. Worth Szoboszlai out for Rodgers? Yes, it is worth it. Buy Keane or Van de Ven to replace Richards? I prefer Keane still, but he is yellow flagged and not guaranteed to start this week. Hi Dylan, play Minter or Mukiele? Minter. Virgil, Richards, Eze, Minter to Gabriel, Chow, Garner, Rodgers? Yes. Looks really good. Rank bench order, Goodmanson, Anderson, the defender, and Lefay. I'd put Lefay first, Goodmanson second, and Anderson third. Richards the defender up to 5.4 million, having Dorgu, Anderson, and Keane. Yeah, that makes sense. The thing is, with another transfer elsewhere, you can get more funds. And I think an Arsenal defender is needed for you. And Gabriel is the preference. So that'd be my preference and the recommendation. Trying to fund the move to Gabriel. And that might require waiting another week, maybe missing another price rise for the Brazilian centre-back because he went up in price overnight. Jesus. And he could go up in price again going into the Sunday. So we literally got 5.5 minutes, so let's be sure to lock in. Mina says, hey Dylan, Happy New Year. Thank you very much, Mina. I hope you have a great 2026. Would you do Rice for Bruno Guimaraes, Trossard, or keep Rice and roll? Yeah, Rice should be available for the Liverpool game. He was very close for the Aston Villa match, but he just about missed out. Yeah, it's a problem with his knee, a lot of swelling, but I'd probably keep Rice here. As much as Trossard has been impressive this season and Bruno Guimaraes has been very consistent, I think Rice is better in the long run. I would start Minter over Voltemada. There is a chance that Visser gets the nod over Voltemada again. I sold Virgil to Chow and Igor Thiago to Bowen. Yeah, that looks good. I think they are good decisions on paper. Gordon or Cunha? This week, I'd go for Gordon. Semenyo, my other bench. Yeah, I'd put him first on the bench, to be fair, and maybe even start him over Rice, but of course, you've got double Arsenal defence, so you almost sort of guarantee a blank, but with DEFCON this season, it's not always the case. Selling Thiago for dead spot, Barnes to fund Rodon to Gabriel, or Minter to Rodgers. Rodon to Gabriel, but Rodgers is another good purchase. I just think Minter could be quite decent this week. Who to start? Miley, McAllister, and Keane Hincapié with Raya in goal. I would start Hincapié and McAllister. But in terms of the predicted lineups, yeah, I think a lot of them don't have McAllister in there, but I've got him in my version. So that's going to be an interesting one to see, but I think McAllister and Hincapié is the way to go. Well, strikers don't get clean sheet points easy, so that's why it's better to have defenders and then maybe a midfielder over a striker. Aranya says start 1, Wilson, Tavernier, Ryan. Cunha to Rodgers for free. Yeah, I do like the Rodgers move long term. I'd probably do that. Now, Cunha could return against Leeds and or Burnley. He is also fixture-proof, but very inconsistent this season. And I think Rodgers is a better FPL pick in all aspects, to be fair. With a starting question, I'd probably go for Wilson personally. Not for me. I wouldn't captain Sharda, but it's not a terrible shout. And I think with him, it's very difficult to predict when he returns because he has that hat-trick potential. He scored 2 last season and also 1 only a couple of weeks ago. My only worry is Rice. Should I start or bench? Well, based on my prediction, I'd probably say bench. And that's where one of O'Reilly or Van de Ven start. And I think Van de Ven is a bit safer, actually. Bench Wilson or Van de Ven? I'd bench Van de Ven. Start one of Rice, Keane or Semenyo. Double Arsenal defence. Yeah, I'd still start Semenyo, though. which sounds crazy, but yeah, I think Semenyo is the one. If Rice was available, then I'd go all in on Arsenal, but with Rice, there is still that question mark, which I covered earlier. I won't transfer in Gabriel just yet. Bench Mint or Thiago. I'd bench Thiago this week, but we all know how that can go. Is Bruno Guimaraes CDM, CM, or CAM? He's more of a central midfielder, box to box. He has played DM before, but yeah, he's definitely not an attacking midfielder. Start Dorgu or Foden? Foden. Would you start Dalot over Minter? No. Best captain this week, apart from Haaland, I would say one of Saka or Rodgers. That's my top three, which you saw just a few minutes ago. Start Rice, Wilson, or O'Reilly. I would start Wilson. So with this poll, 34% of you have said Cunha to Rodgers, 28% have said O'Reilly to Tarkowski, and then there's Cunha and Thiago to Rodgers and Bowen for a -4, and then selling both O'Reilly and Cunha to Rodgers and Tarkowski for a -4. So yeah, those are the current... It's a very balanced poll, to be fair. Very, very balanced. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. So do you reckon Semenyo, O'Reilly, or Van de Ven over Rice? I'd say Semenyo, just because the ceiling is also higher. And if Arsenal do disappoint you with the clean sheet, then maybe Semenyo's the one who gets something in the process. I'm captaining Haaland, yeah, bit boring, but I think he is the best of a relatively bad bunch this week. Not many standouts. We've just got over a minute left until the deadline, and after that I'll be gifting memberships as well to those that stay, so I do appreciate all your support. Start two of Minter, Raul Jimenez, Stack, and Keane. I'd start Minter and probably Keane. I think Jimenez would be first on the bench though, but Stack against United isn't terrible. So quite a balanced question. Tarkowski in for Richards, starting Gabriel, Van Dijk and Dorgu with Chalobah on the bench. Yep, looks good. And bringing in Timber for Van Dijk doesn't look too shabby next week either. I think that's an upgrade. Good luck as well, Baraf. Well, we still have a few seconds left, Banjo, but yeah, it's very, very close now. Bowen or Haaland for captaincy? Haaland, but Bowen is in my top 10 list. Lacroix or Gvardiol? Gvardiol. Start Wilson or Thiago? I would start Thiago. So yeah, Captain Haaland for me. I need to start this year with a good game week. Yes, this is technically the first game week of 2026, even though the last one started in 2025 and ended in this calendar year. Dylan, start Heaven or O'Reilly? I'd still go for O'Reilly, but there are some question marks about his starting berth. Alfred says, have a feeling that O'Reilly might not start. A lot of people have said that, and that would obviously be far from ideal for me, especially if he comes on for a one-pointer. But yeah, 2 free transfer, 0.6 in the bank. Any changes? The deadline has passed, of course, but I think for this week you're fine. But long-term, I think O'Reilly, Van Dijk, Anderson could be sells. And to be fair, the one transfer I would have considered is Thiago to Bowen, but that could go either way. It is very risky to do that. Thank you very much to Paredes for gifting 10 memberships. You've done a lot of great work for the channel, and you keep on doing it in 2026. So big up to yourself. I do appreciate a lot. Mohammed says start 1, Wilson, Alderete, Enzo, Van de Ven. Might be unpopular, but I'd say Wilson. Who to bench, Cherki or Ekitike? If I had to bench one, it's probably Cherki, reluctantly. I still like him as an option. Captaining Haaland, vice Gabriel. Yes, I think Gabriel's a great shout. He's 6th in my list, actually. Start O'Reilly, Alderete, Wilson. Yeah, from those three, it would be Wilson. Good luck as well. Thank you very much. Leeds beat United 2-1, and that United fans never cut his hair again. Yeah. Well, either way, they lost that winning streak against Wolves, so... Locked as well to Stupaki, good luck. I say locked as well, it's locked for everyone. Hi Dylan, my wildcard, Pickford, Dubravka, Gabriel, Nunes, Chalobah, Van de Ven, Mukiele, Rodgers, Foden, Saka, Bruno Guimaraes, Paqueta, Haaland, Bowen, DCL. Looks solid. I'm not a big fan of the double West Ham attack, but then again in my wildcard video, I had Potts as a cheap option for those that couldn't afford Ghana and Jarrod Bowen up front, but yeah, in terms of starting week in, week out, despite the promising fixtures, I would have reservations about Paqueta. There are rumours of him not playing, which I addressed earlier. I don't know how reliable these sources are. I don't even know what the original source is, but it's just worth putting that out there. But it is a good wildcard squad. I do like the look of it, and you've got some very solid picks in there, not just for the next 5 game weeks, but also in the long run. Thank you, Paredes, as well. Big up to you, and wishing everyone a good game week, that's for sure. Kirkes and Gavardio starting. Gavardio, yes. Kirkes, I've got Robertson in my predicted lineup, but that could go either way. Stack or Thiago? Thiago. You have a busy year with FPL, then World Cup a couple of weeks later. Well, the World Cup, yeah, in June. The plan is to cover it, but I'll talk about that closer to the time. Also, UCL Fantasy. Yeah, January is going to be very busy for me, actually. So, yeah, I'm going to try to get the main piece of content out there and still be consistent, but yeah, it's going to be a balancing act, and that's what I'm going to try to do in 2026. Thank you, Sam, and also to Kiddo. I sold Van Dijk to Chow and Igor to Thiago. Is that Igor? Oh, okay, that's a bit confusing. I'm scared now. Yeah, we covered this before. I'm guessing you meant Igor to Bowen. You asked this question earlier, mate, and I answered it. I think they're good transfers, but the Bowen-Thiago move can go either way. What's your prediction for overall points at the end of the season? Over 2,200, I guess. Yeah. Hopefully more than that, 2,300 plus. The more the merrier. Thanks, Adam. Do you think Arsenal will win this season? Yes, but as always, it's a bit nervy and it's never easy or simple with the Gunners. Another Van Dijk call is what I pray for. Yeah, I think Fulham could score, though. This is what I went for on the wild card. It says Inbred. I'll just call you Pancake, not Inbred, because, yeah. Great name, though. Inbred Pancake. Roofs, Gabriel, Tarkovsky, Timber, Cherky, Bruno Guimaraes, Rogers, Garner, Saka, Haaland, Bowen, benches Dubravka, Chow, Richards, Barnes. 4.2 million striker. Thanks for your help. Yeah, looks good. Not sure about the Richards one, though, because he is essentially ruled out for the Newcastle game, and Palace have been quite poor for a while now. So even Van der Ven would have been a better option for me, but I think with the starting 11 anyway, it's really well thought out. You've got Chow on the bench too, and you could arguably have started him this week against Palace, but yeah, Richards is the only one I look at, and I think I'm not too sure, but yeah, Barnes I get because of budget, and overall it looks good. I'm on 10,354 rank. Hopefully can push into top 5k this game week. That would require a massive game week there, but it's possible, and yeah, definitely a great position to be in. I was just gifted a membership by Paredes. Thanks, mate. Exactly that. Enjoy it, Doc. Top 3 favorite World Cup winners 2026. Argentina, Spain, and England, dare I say. Yeah, I think the most likely right now is probably Spain, but football's a funny game, and it's about how you kind of approach the tournament. You can have all the momentum in the years building up to it, but it's about how you arrive when the tournament gets underway. Deadline over. Your views on now Chelsea players as FPL options? Well, I'm still tempted by Palmer, but with him, I've always been a bit concerned about the groin injuries, the minutes being managed. I think Reece James has been very impressive this season, but we saw in the last game being benched, and he's another one who can also be micromanaged a lot. Chalobah's been very consistent this season. Sanchez as a goalkeeper is fine, top 5 in the game, but I think he has tailed off in the last couple of weeks, and Roofs, Pickford and Raya are better. Yeah, I think it's difficult to judge because we don't know who's coming, going to come in yet long term. And if it's Fabregas, for example, I think he could do a good job at Chelsea, so it just depends. But yeah, with Liam Rosenau, for example, there's a lot of negativity online about it, and I understand, but it's difficult to say until we see the manager come in and we see what formation they play, their ideas and all that. Good luck as well, Sonika. Thank you very much. So, to the new 10 members, so Stanislav, Morpheus, Rai, Rob Drums, Rishi, Mr. Iceman, Doc5266, and Ennis. The same goes to Tom and Robinstein. Enjoy those memberships, but it's not all done there. If you're still here, you've got a chance of being gifted 5 memberships at least, and there'll be another 5 headed your way very soon. So I'll read out the new members very shortly. Adamax says, hi Dylan, all these people have bought in Gabriel, which I get, but he's been out for 6 to 8 weeks and came on with 30 minutes max to go in the last game. Arsenal have been doing fine while he was out. They were doing fine, but not great, and they had a bit of a rough patch away from home, losing to Villa, drawing against Chelsea and Sunderland with a lot of late goals conceded. Even against Crystal Palace, they should have won by 3 or 4 goals, and they conceded a set piece towards the end. So I think Gabriel helps a lot, and he is the best defender in the game. So I understand why people are going in early, but I am surprised by how quickly he's rising in price and the sheer volume of transfers. I did Raya to Rufs and Senesi to Gabriel, keeping flagged Rice and Keane. Yeah, it's not ideal, but they're good options in the long run. So what makes us think Gabriel will start? Well, he started against Villa, and he's such a consistent starter for Arsenal. Calafiori and Mosquera are out, so the options are quite limited for the Gunners. I mean, Ben White just came back from an injury himself, so even him starting and Timber centre-back, it just doesn't seem that viable. Yeah, I'd be surprised if Gabriel didn't start. I mean, you might say, oh, Hincapié could be centre-back and Lewis Skelly on the left, but I think Arteta will go for Gabriel in central defence. Which player that will be in the list to buy back to the squad? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by this, but yeah. In terms of a player that we've sold recently and we might buy back soon, Bruno Fernandes when he's back from injury, Daniel Munoz, but in terms of like available players now, I need to think about that, to be fair. Well, Austin, I did go for FPL Challenge a few times, mate. I'll go for it soon. Villa 2, Forest 0, says Twisted Parky. Brighton 2, Burnley 1. 1-1 draw between Wolves and West Ham. Bournemouth 0, Arsenal 2. Leeds 2, Man United 1. Everton 2, Brentford 1. Fulham 1, Liverpool 2. Newcastle 1, Palace 0. Spurs 0, Sunderland 0. City 3, Chelsea 1. Looks good. 3-0-0s came as a surprise last week. How can we see this time? I see 0. Possibly 1 for me, but maybe not the game I predicted, which was Leeds United and Man United. I plan to -4 Minter to Gordon, Guimaraes, Gay to another 3.8 defender. Is it necessary? No, not really. And 3.8 defender, you're looking at Klein, and that's only going to last you a few weeks. Maybe a Burnley option, because Aiden Heaven now costs 3.9 million in FPL. So, let's go to FPL Challenge. But yeah, I haven't made any changes to this yet. Maybe I should, to be fair. Maybe I should. Let's see. Yeah, it's okay, just editing this a little bit, but yeah. That's weird. Okay, so I'll be gifting another 5 memberships very soon, and I'll also be reading out the winners of the recent one. But yeah. Okay. I'll leave that on for now. But yeah, I'm going to look to change it up a little bit. So yeah, Gabriel, captain, Rufs, Tarkovsky, Chow, Rogers, and Haaland. And that's what I've currently gone for in FPL Challenge here. Neto and Chalobah have been so good. Even cheese string legs James. Yeah, they have been. Neto has been a surprise this season. Well, Sam, you've got to be positive, and ultimately YouTube just decide randomly. I think you have a better chance if you are ranked highly in the leaderboard, which you can see in the live chat. It says top fans. But yeah, there is still a chance. So to Josh, CUFC, Beliaref, Jerry Brooks, CESVR, and also to Bose, enjoy the membership for an entire month. I think this is a very short turnaround week, so rolling. Yes, there is a very short turnaround, but I think people will just make early transfers. That's what a lot of people will do. Liam Rosenau, they just can't stay away from Brighton. True. If you're a normal FPL manager, they're not doing this FPL stream, will you listen to advice from the FPL creators who do the streams? Not necessarily. I like to make my own moves, to be fair. Like, when people start, I get it. They're unsure about the game, they're learning things, so they might take advice or follow what someone else is doing. But I think in the long run, if you want to improve and also not limit yourself to what someone else is doing, the best thing to do is make your own decisions. You can ask someone for their opinion, which is fine, and bounce ideas off each other, but yeah, I think copying is just never in your best interests. I ended up keeping Rice and rolling my transfer. My starting 11, Raya, Van Dijk, O'Reilly, Timber, Alderete, Foden, Cunha, Wilson, Minter, Haaland, Ekitike. Looks good, and I think Rice is worth keeping long term, and hopefully O'Reilly does start for both of us. Hopefully Bournemouth can pull a draw and Arsenal drop points, says Baraf. How about no? And City drop points. Thank you very much. See ya. Cheers. I took -4 for Rodgers to Semenyo, or Rodgers in for Semenyo out. Have triple Arsenal defence, so thought may as well bin Semenyo. Makes sense, and also that could be Semenyo's last game in a Bournemouth shirt. So it makes a lot of sense there. And we just don't know about how quickly he will adapt to City, how long it will take him to start games consistently. So it makes a lot of sense. Do you think Pope-John rotation is good? John will play 24-26, seems good. For the time being, it looks fine, but Pope is injury prone for a goalkeeper, and Sells is historically the #1 for Nottingham Forest, so that could change in a couple of weeks' time. It's not a very secure long-term pick. Just Parky says, my challenge team is Areola, Van Heck, Gabriel, Tarkovsky, Szoboszlai, and Haaland at the moment. Might remove Areola and Szoboszlai. Yeah, I'll be honest, like, even though West Ham have good fixtures, I'm just not interested in their defensive line or Areola in goal. Van Heck looks decent, though, and I do like most of your picks in there. And yeah, I agree with you. Szoboszlai and Areola are the sellable assets from what you've mentioned. If Arsenal win the league, how will you celebrate the victory? Probably go to the parade in London, but let's take it one step at a time. Still 5 months left of the season and a lot of football to be played, but yeah, I'll have a good time. I do remember actually the last time I went to one, even though I was really young back then, but yeah, it was good times, and hopefully it happens again. Okay, so for those that are still here, I appreciate it. Let's also get this video up to as many likes as possible. So yeah, thank you very much to those that have shown support to the channel in our first deadline stream of 2026. Yeah, I've been to the stadium plenty of times to watch Arsenal play, but more so when I was a teenager. It's even more difficult to get tickets based on the membership I've got and the ballot system, which is not great in my opinion, and I'm being very generous there. Yeah, well, Baraf is a hater, so Arsenal wins it all this year. Nothing can stop the train. Well, that'd be amazing, but yeah, football's a funny game, and you never know what can happen. But yeah, Arsenal have a great chance of winning trophies, and they've got to do it. I think 2026 has to be the time they deliver. So, 5 memberships more. Let's go for it, and let's see who wins it. Anana not starting for Villa? Yeah. I think you are the one who pointed that out as a possibility. Bose says, thanks Dylan for the membership. Couldn't join in today. Hope you are having a great weekend and get a big plus. Yeah, you too, Bose. No worries. It's good that you've tuned in anyway. And yeah, big up to you and everyone else watching. And also to Robinstein. Yes, Paredes was the one who gifted 10 memberships earlier. And yeah, that's 20 for the session. So to 1L.1L, to Risky, to Sauja, Agustin Orofino, and Nicholas Hanna. There you go. 1 month of membership. So that means early access to my videos, proud to comments, and many other perks. So big up to all of you. If you have Semenyo and free City players and he moves to City, what happens to your team? The next time you make a transfer, you have to sell one of the City players, essentially. But you can have 4 players, at least for a short while. 4 City players, that is. Pundit's perks, says Banjo. Yeah, that's a nice little ring to it. I could go Rodgers, but a rival has him, so want to go against. Might bring me luck. Yeah, Rodgers is also difficult to predict, right? He can get a 15-pointer against United, and, well, West Ham away wasn't too surprising for him to return there, but yeah, I think he can be a bit of a hit-and-miss option. He can blank a lot of times, but when he does return, it's a very high ceiling with a goal and assist combined. What I'll probably do here, before wrapping up, is showing you the lineups. So let's go to the early kickoff. For Aston Villa Forest, just go through their lineups and then wrap things up. And yeah, call it a day. So Rice has travelled with the Arsenal squad to Bournemouth. That was reported by Sam Collins actually 35 minutes ago. So that reinforces what I said. I'll bring that update as well very shortly. What I'll also do is bring up the scoreline predictions for you one last time. And of course, I went for FPL Challenge. There is the possibility of a late change or two, but I typically don't do that with this game. Okay, so the lineups are ready. And so is this update by Sam Collins on Declan Rice. So, literally as I just read out a few minutes ago, Declan Rice has travelled with the Arsenal squad to Bournemouth, joined the squad on their usual pre-game walk this morning too. So that's a big boost there for Arsenal. And for Aston Villa, they are going for Martinez, Cash, Konsa, Lindelof and Maatsen, Kamara, Tielemans, McGinn, Buendia, Rodgers and Watkins. That was always my doubt, whether it would be Buendia starting and Tielemans playing deeper, or Onana partnering Kamara again. And with Nottingham Forest, John, Williams, Murillo, Anderson, Gibbs-White, Dominguez, Igor Jesus, Hutchinson, Bakwa, Milenkovic and Aina is back. So yeah, a few surprises there in the Nottingham Forest 11. I think the Aina one is the biggest shock of the weekend so far, I should say. Bloody hell. But yeah, it's been good talking to you for the past couple of hours. Thank you very much for all the support, and hopefully you enjoyed the analysis for Gameweek 20 and beyond. And have a great 2026. Enjoy the new year, and I wish you all the best. Have happiness, prosperity, and good health. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit the notification bell so you're always up to date on my content, both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Let's get this stream to over 130 likes, and also closing on new goals like 138, well, one day, 38k subscribers on YouTube. So check all the links in the description. There's my Twitter, Instagram and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, my Discord server, the FPL and FPL Challenge Leagues and Spotify can also be found in the description. And yeah, 20 new members in the house here. And that's a big thanks there to Paredes. Who would you pick to bring in for Semenyo, Rodgers, Szoboszlai, Gordon, or someone cheaper like Garner? Rodgers. Newcastle game postponed due to the weather, says Cooker 2. Oh, I bloody hope not. Well, that actually might be good for me because I don't have any Newcastle or Palace players, but no, I don't think so. I haven't seen anything suggesting that. It would have to be extreme weather conditions for a game to be postponed. But then again, in the UK, it's more likely than in other countries. But yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I'm struggling for other challenge mids. But I think it's best to go for 2 or 3 defenders anyway because of the clean sheet potential. But then again, with the midfield, it's not too bad, right? It's still a decent little boost if the player in question keeps a clean sheet. Gavardio looked very good at left-back, like the 23-24 season. If Pep plays Kusanov and Diaz and Gavardio left-back, we will look much stronger, even have pace at the back. Well, City have options, but I don't think the defensive depth is great. My first time watching the stream without a brew. Wow, that's saying something, because you've been in a lot of these streams. Definitely take care of yourself, mate. But yeah, enjoy the brews, of course. Is Savona not going to play anymore? Well, he's not first choice. I thought Sinchenko would start, but with Aina back... yeah, Savona's going to be a backup for the time being. Thank you as well, Mina. Good luck as well. Let's rock some points. That's all we can do. Why does the Forest team look like it's on the back of a paper bag? Yeah, that's an issue with the graphics, I guess. Wait, we saw 3 lineups. Who is the 4th? Wait, what? 3 lineups? Well, I showed the Villa and Forest ones. I'm not sure if there's a glitch or something that happened, but maybe I can watch back and question what is happening. I did Calafiori to Keane, O'Reilly to Dorgu, Minter to Gordon, Enzo to Rogers. What do you think? Yeah, O'Reilly to Dorgu, I get it. I mean, Dorgu, as long as he's your 5th defender and you don't start him regularly, that's fine. Keane is not a guarantee to start, but I think he's a good option whilst Branthwaite is unavailable. Gordon is not my favourite Newcastle midfielder, but he's probably second in that list. Bruno Guimaraes being the top one. Enzo to Rogers is a great move, in my opinion. I think Rogers is one of the best midfielders to buy. This week, if I was in a stronger position, I would have probably bought him in for Game Week 20. What I showed of Arsenal was just a Declan Rice update. That's all. So it's just a quote by Simon Collins, and it just showed that Rice has travelled with the squad. That's all I did. And then I showed Villa's lineup, followed by Forest. Yano got 3 defence, getting 1 mid, don't like many. Yeah, that's pretty much the way I feel about FPL Challenge. Thank you again for the great content. Good luck this week, mate. Thank you, Keith. It's always good talking to you, and all the best for 2026. And fair enough to Stupaki. Yeah, that's all covered. At least you're not drunk. But yeah, it's good talking to you as always. I'll see you all very soon for more FPL News to Your Fantasy content. Take care. Enjoy the football. I wish you all the best of luck for the rest of the season and also for 2026. And I'll see you next time.